Good morning. Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Tax Inspire Conference 2021. A very good morning to you all, and thank you for joining this year's conference. I bid you welcome. The theme for this year's conference is Future of Tax Practice Game Changers. This event promises to be a very interesting and enlightening one with a great array of speakers lined up for today's event. The event has been put together by the Tax House in partnership with Churchill Solicitors and Dulux Legal. It is the Global Tax Conference to inspire the next generation of women in tax, administrators of tax practitioners, as well as tax professionals. It's a virtual event and will be lasting from now till about 3 o'clock with different sections and segments that will interest listeners. At this point, going straight into their engagement for today, we'll be calling up the chief convener of today's events, who will be giving us the opening remarks in person of Mr. Olajide Omosebi, the founder of Tax House and chief host of the Tax Inspire Conference 2021. Mr. Olajide.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Timileyin, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you all for joining this session. Very good morning to all present here. My name is Olajide Omosebi, and I will be giving the welcome speech for today's conference, kicking off the half-day event. In the next 5 minutes of my welcome speech for conference, I'll be walking you through what the conference is about, how useful it is for you, and what the future holds for all of us in the context of the theme of this conference. Professor A.D. Lawton, in his inaugural lecture, Tax Turmoil, eminently remarked, tax is everyone's field. Alluding to this truth is to also say, expertise and mentoring must also be added to it. Our field is the most potent tool with which to transform any society, and there is hardly any society that can survive without tax. This epoch-making conference, which is set to change the face of tax practice globally and also contribute immensely to the important issues hovering around the all-important role of women in tax, role of professionals in tax, and the role of blockchain and technology in tax administration. Every year, governments across the world grapple with funding their budgetary needs, thereby upping on the revenue gotten from individuals and companies. This poses different technicalities as with every human endeavor, but satisfying so is that tax will forever be with us, and getting knowledge in it is pertinent. There can be no discussion about the future of a nation, field, or community without discussing the all-important role of women in it. They are shapers and should be at the forefront of policy making, laws, and administration, which requires a lot of skills innately possessed by women. Tax administration is susceptible to aggressiveness and presents a bit of complexity as regards the enforcement of tax statutes, meeting revenue milestones, and relating with taxpayers. Taxpayers are never satisfied with the relationship and always wish for more and better ways to lawfully comply and even pay less. Technology and blockchain have proven for almost a decade to have the potency to enhance the complex relationship between taxpayers and revenue authorities. I ask, are nations better off with technology and blockchain? And do they pose any challenge? Do we need more techies and blockchain experts in tax? Do we need more investment in tax technology? The relationship between taxpayers and administrators creates a vacuum that can only be filled by the academia, multilateral institutions, the lawmakers, professional bodies, tax, legal, and accounting firms in the areas of scholarship, trainings, taxpayers' education, skills acquisition, and mentoring for stakeholders. More investment must be done in these areas, and a sinful compliance defeats the future. We all default in some ways, but changing the game will require a bit of righteousness. This conference has brought together thought leaders in tax and high-profile panelists from across the globe to contribute to the future of tax practice. I especially welcome you all, and if it is not too early, I want to thank all committee members and co-conveners for bringing to the tax community this great opportunity to learn and network. Thank you all, and God bless. How was it? Was I too fast?
Very much, Mr. Jide. Really appreciates that very brief remarks with respect to the conference. We are still now and get moving forward at this point in time. At this time, we shall begin the good message from the president of the CITM, Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, who is Vice President Dr. Samuel Abi. Good message.
Good morning, everyone. The earlier speakers, Timileyin Olajide, good morning. I bring greetings from the president of our institute, who is unavoidably absent in this program this morning. And he has dedicated me to read this opening remark. So I have the opening remarks of the 15th president of Charter Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, in person of Mr. Adesina Adedayo, FCTI, at the Tax Inspire Virtual Conference 2021, held on Monday, 12th July 2021. I am pleased to address participants at this Tax Inspire Conference 2021, which is the result of the joint effort of these organizations, that is Tax House, Church E Solicitors, and the Laws Legal. I commend the initiative, which aligns with the expectation of the Charter Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN, as a professional tax institute that is committed to endeavors that consistently brings taxation to the front burner of national discourse. We are encouraged with the fact that this conference will be addressing contemporary issues of relevance. May I also underscore the need for the organizers to collaborate and work more closely with the Institute in the future. This conference has been aptly titled Future of Tax Practice, Game Changer. This is a wonderful opportunity to assess the future of tax practice in the light of rapid technological advancements that has posed corresponding challenges to tax professionals in all spheres. I'm also excited that the organizers chose to focus on inspiring the next generation of women in tax administrators, professionals, and practitioners. It is equally important to commend the organizers for the well thought out focal areas of discussion that will be projecting the current panel sessions fit role of tax professionals in tax, role of technology and blockchain in tax administration, and role of women in tax. These thematic areas resonate with the current and future realities in the tax system across jurisdictions, including the developed nations of the world. May I touch briefly on some of the thematic issues for this conference? Tax practice. Tax practice is no longer an all-comer affair as was done in the past. It is a profession that requires in-depth knowledge, skills, and expertise of the principles and practices of the profession. In Nigeria, it is solely for those who have been satisfied by the Territory of Taxation of Nigeria, the professional regulatory body for tax practice. The essence is to ensure professionalism in such an important aspect of governance in a civilized society. Therefore, we cannot ignore the place of professionals in ensuring that the tax system is well structured to meet the revenue mobilization needs of government as well as ensure the enabling tax environment that meets the expectation of stakeholders. As it pertains to the use of technology, it cannot be emphasized enough. We must come to task with the fact that technology has brought about great changes in the way that human affairs are structured, including taxation. Tax administration can only thrive better when technology is the backbone. In an area of increased digital transactions, trade and commerce, tax administration must leverage on technology to be able to achieve its objective. Technology in require all facets of tax administration, taxpayer registration, tax processing and management, filing of tax returns, payment of taxes, reform process, and a lot more. It must be emphasized that the use of technology has to be backed up by a review of relevant tax laws and legislation. It must also not ignore the place of women in the tax pitch. In the tax profession, there is no gender in the real sense of it. We are all taxmen. We must encourage young professionals, particularly women, to develop an active interest on the subject and inspire to be game changers for the profession, and ultimately our tax system will be better for it. I want to conclude my remarks by wishing you all a successful event. It is my hope that exposition and recommendations from the event will benefit attendees and contribute to our national development. On a lighter note, to ensure effective inspiration, I will advise that our members at this conference should ensure that they remain financial members to be in good tax standing. Otherwise, we will use technology to discover the defaulters. Thank you for your attention. Signed by Additional Adedayo, FCTI, the 15th President and Chairman of Council, Territory of Taxation of Nigeria. I thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate that very direct point, which brings us down to the subject for today. It was indeed a very good message with respect to taxation in Nigeria and touched on basic issues which we also look forward to discuss in today's meeting. At this point, without much ado, we shall be going to the first panel session for today, which is going to be on the role of professionals in tax. Among the panelists for this session are Dr. Olawale Oluse, Olatunji Abdulrazak, Olubusola Ajala, Mr. Edem Ada, and Mr. Alu Dogara. Taking us through the session would be Oluwaseun Joshua Ayansola, who is commonly and popularly known as Sage. He's the founder of Commercially Aware and an associate in the banking, finance, and fintech teams of Aluko and Oyebode, a full-fledged commercial law firm in Lagos. For his work at Commercially Aware and his passion for giving back to value, Sage has been recognized as one of the top 21 new establishments of 2019 by Y Naija, and in November 2020, he was nominated for the Future Awards Prize for Lawyers. Sage graduated top of his class at Obafemi Awolowo University with a first-class degree in law and received the Justice Kayode Esho's first prize for professional ethics and skills at the Nigerian Law School. Before joining Aluko and Oyebode, he had gained graduate internship experience in the tax team of KPMG and PwC, to mention but a few. In his spare time, he enjoys mentoring and volunteering. Over to you, Sage, for the first panel session for today. All right, thank you very much. So we apologize for the long silence. Morenike, I believe you can hear me. I'm Morenike, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much.
Yes, I can. Yeah,
Yes,
you're
I can
welcome.
hear you.
So we've just gotten the goodwill message from the representative of the president of the CITN, and the conference has just started. Before we go into the next panel session, which would be on the role of professionals in tax, with a long list of speakers, I want to hear your thoughts on the theme of today's event, which is Future of Tax Practice Game Changers.
Yes. And I believe our audience are ready for today, as the conference is power packed. So I want us to have high expectations for that which will be discussed at the different sessions.
All right, thank you very much. Veronica, can you kindly make comments with respect to the theme?
I didn't get that, Lane. I didn't get that.
Of today's event.
Okay, with respect to the team, well, yeah, I can hear you now. You know, the practice of tax, I get your point. The practice of tax as it is, it's a business for everyone, you know, because everyone is a taxpayer, or well, it's assumed that everyone is a taxpayer. So it's something that should interest everyone, you know, every taxpayer out there, employers, employee, you know, even the average market woman and man out there, you know. We need to be aware of what is happening in this domain. Particularly when we even consider the digital age that we're in. You know, in recent times, I know the FIRS now, most of what they do now, everything is online. You know, you want to file your annual return, you want to file anything, it's all done online now. So really, it's going to be a game changer with regards to tax as a field, you know. And it's important that we're aware of all that is happening, you know. Imagine me as a taxpayer not knowing what happened and how my tax is being used and all that. So it's just important that we all are aware and know what is happening in this domain.
Thank you very much, Morenike. We understand that we have 3 different panel sessions, and while we look forward to those sessions, but without also touching on the discussion for those sessions, with respect to the first panel session, which will be coming up in about 15 minutes from now, the role of professionals in tax. On a summary view, what would you say would be your response to that question on the roles of professionals in tax? And who exactly can we even say are professionals in tax? Did you get my question?
Okay, so I think the tax as it is, it's a separate field on its own, and those who would want to, at least get a knowledge in that field. Yes, I'm answering your question already.
Yes, thank you. Proceed.
They have to be prepared. They have to be well trained. Yes, so they have to be prepared. They have to be well trained in that field. So okay, like imagine as a law student back then in school, taxation law was one field that I didn't want to delve into at all. Because I thought about the calculations and all that. So there's some people that are actually figure focused in the sense that they understand when it comes to calculations and all those other fields. So it's professionals that can actually handle that aspect.
All right. Thank you very much again, Morenike. I think for something of more interest to you, being a female, would be the third panel session. So just as a way of whetting the appetite ahead of that session, the role of women in tax, our story. What do you think? What comes to mind when you get to hear that?
Similarly, I didn't hear what you said. Did you just ask
All
a
right. So
question?
I said, yes, I said with respect to the third panel session, something which is going to be of more interest to you as a lady is the third panel session, which is having the topic role of women in tax, our story. As a way of whetting the appetite, what comes to mind when you get to hear this topic?
When I heard about women in tax, I think it's something to be very, very proud of. So it's not just a male dominated field. There are women actually doing so much in that space. And it will be very interesting to learn firsthand about their stories. So I'm actually looking forward to that session.
Thank you very much. Just before I let you go, to come up again at the right time would be my last question, which would be the role of blockchain and technology in tax administration. We understand the influx of technology in every aspect of our human dealings, but now with respect to taxation, the role of blockchain and technology in tax administration. Can you give us a background to this particular topic? I hear my question, Morenike.
As going to step further, is she's a lawyer as well as about how with respect to upload Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So if I'm if I'm conversation, um, site.
All right. I guess we just had to step out on that because of the network challenge. Um, I'm sure we'll still get to hear more on this particular topic by the time the panel session goes down because we have a long list of panelists who are experts in this field and have so much knowledge around these particular topics. We have under the panelists for the topic role of blockchain and technology in tax administration, including Dr. Adeni Omanusi, we have Dr. Armstrong Tagan, we have Mr. Femi Olarinde, we have Naomi Thompson, and we have Mr. Alfredo Kulosa. I'm certain that they'll be doing justice to this particular topic by the time the topic panel session comes up. Moderating this particular session will also be a very interesting person, but at the exact time, we'll get to know who this person moderating would be. And just to run through what we have lined up for you today is the fact that very soon we'll be going in for the first panel session, after which we would have a speech from a guest speaker, followed by the second panel session. We'll also take keynote addresses, followed by the third panel session. We'll take your questions, and at the end of the day, we'll draw the curtain, we'll draw the program to a close at the end of these interesting timeouts. We're certain that you'll be enjoying yourself even throughout this program because a lot of intellectualism will be shared, taking questions and also learning and gaining knowledge. We also enjoin you to just sit back and relax even as we prepare to go in for the first panel session that will be coming up in a very short time from now.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I don't know if you all can hear me. Very distinguished panelists. Please, if you can hear me, kindly just say so.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
Yes, I can.
great.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can hear you clearly.
Thank you.
I can hear you clearly.
All right, so I will just wait for a few minutes just so that we have all of the panelists here, and then we can commence this session. So, good morning again, everybody. My name is Oluwaseun Anonshola. I am an associate with the law firm of Aluko Anoibode, where I work with the banking, finance, fintech, and tax teams. And this morning, we're going to be having an interesting and engaging conversation. Right from my undergraduate days, I've always had, an interest, a passion for tax and taxation, and I also enjoy the mix of the panelists, representing different sects. Those who come from a finance or purely finance background, those who come from a mix of legal and finance background. We have tax advocates and even tax entrepreneurs, as the case is, and each of them I know will be bringing very interesting perspectives to the conversation this morning. First of all, I should say that as a member of the Tax Club, a lot of the conversations we had around the role of professionals in tax, and if indeed today, if it can be said that there are enough tax professionals
Can you hear
in the
me?
market. I can, but I don't know if you can hear me. Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you. So first on our list this morning, and this is somebody that I admire a lot and does a lot of work around educating and developing the So for the first on my list is Miss Busola Ajala. She's a legal practitioner Miss Busola Ajala is a legal practitioner with over 10 years work experience in multiple industries, spanning across real estate, oil and gas, telecommunications. She is a performance and result coach. Sola combines both her legal and business expertise in delivering practicable solutions. One of our works is the Strict Legal Business and the Business of Law concept. She's also the founder and director of studies at Strictly Law Business Academy. And Bukola is a self-led, disciplined, and highly motivated professional, and we're very excited to have you on the panel today. I don't know if you want to share a few words before I move on to the next panelist.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. My name is Olubusola Ajala, not Bukola. So I'm Olubusola Ajala, and it's strictly law business, not strictly legal business. But I'm very glad to be here, and congratulations to the team, particularly Olajide Omoshebi, for convening this inspiring conference. Thank you.
Okay, and just for the records, apologies for that, it's Olubusola Ajala. And so next on my list, of course, is Mr. Aludo Gara. He is a human resources specialist with an extensive experience in organizational management. He is highly skilled in record management, monitoring, and data management. His background in human resource management has allowed him to manage workforce environments with exceptional excellence. As a human resources manager, he is a BSc holder in political science, a licensed human resources manager practitioner, and throughout his career, he's demonstrated high level of commitment to the mission of all organizations, and currently also does a lot of work around non-profit and a lot of work around advocacy, around orphans and vulnerable children with psychosocial support and adolescent reproductive health. His duty involved drawing up a strategic plan for execution, formation of the budget plan, monitoring, and evaluation of activities outcome. We're very happy to have you join us today for the panel. If you're here, kindly just react, and Mr. Aludo Gara.
Good morning, all my other panelists and other people that have joined this session this morning. I'm Mr. Aludo Gara. I work for Federal Inland Revenue Service for almost 10 to 11 years now, and I'm so happy to join this forum as we discuss some critical issues involving tax environment. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. So next on our list is Mr. Olatunji Abdulrazak. He's a founder of Tax Mobile Online and currently a director, tax and regulatory services at Nolans Nigeria Professional Services. Prior to this, Olatunji worked as a senior manager, tax regulatory and advisory services at Saffron Professional Services, tax and fiscal reporting, and also served as tax and fiscal reporting accountant at Schlumberger Nigeria Limited. He holds a BSc in accounting from University of Ado-Ekiti, an advanced diploma in transfer pricing from the Thomas Jefferson School of Law, San Diego, United States of America, and he holds a certificate in international financial reporting. He's a member of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, a member of the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, and several other professional organizations. We're very happy and privileged to have you on the panel today, Mr. Abdulrazak.
Thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to join my professional colleagues in discussing issues that surround taxation. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. And I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So the next on my list, and definitely not least, is somebody that I admire so much, is straddled between being a full-time tax professional with a leading professional services firm, and also served as a partner in a top law firm as well. And I don't know if Mr. Anda is on the call right now. I think I saw him just a while ago. Is Mr. Edem Anda started his legal career as state counsel, rising early to become associate director of criminal prosecutions and litigations. He joined Shell Nigeria Development and Production Company as legal advisor and contracts draftsman in 1989. He was a pioneer head of tax as Shell Nigeria Development Production Limited company, I beg your pardon. He did his first expatriation to Shell Expo UK. Mr. Anda also served as head of Shell Africa Oil Products tax between 2004 and 2007, based in Kenya. Mr. Anda's career has seen him work in the public and private sectors in Nigeria. After leaving Shell, Mr. Anda served as international tax manager with Baker Hughes UK Limited. He returned to Nigeria and served as partner as Ernst & Young, responsible for oil and gas tax services. In 2016, Mr. Anda became a tax partner with the Tier 1 commercial law firm Olanihu Ajayi, and today is a lead consultant at Centurion Law. We're very happy and privileged to have you on this panel today. And I don't know if you can hear me, sir.
I can hear you very well. Thank you very much. I had initial technical problems, but I think it's all sorted now. Thanks for that introduction, and thank you to my fellow panelists.
Okay, thank you so much.
I hope you can hear me, Mike. Yep.
Yes, we can. We can. Thank you. Now that we've set the tone and we know exactly why each of the panelists is qualified to speak to us, and I also believe that if you've joined this session today, it is because you have some interest or the other in taxation or being a tax professional. So the first question I will be directing to Mr. Olatunju Abdulrazak. I mean, not only because he's relatively young, I mean, I also think that in my experience or in the short time that I have served as that I was a member of the tax club of different universities, I know that he often frequents some of those conferences, you know, talking to people and just pushing the tax agenda. That, in your opinion, sir, do you think that there is a saturation of tax professionals in the market today? And I mean the Nigerian market. What's your view on that? Do you think that position is correct, that we have enough tax professionals and the market is saturated?
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to thank the organizers for having me again, you know, to share my views on certain issues. The Nigerian market is not saturated with respect to tax practice. It is not saturated because we have close to about 41 million micro, small, and medium enterprise in Nigeria. And currently, if my statistic is not wrong, maybe anybody can correct me, I'm sure we have about close to 30,000 or above 30,000 to 30 to 35,000, you know, tax practitioners. So the market is still there. Even if somebody should set up a tax firm today, you will still get your market share, because I don't think all the 41 million SMEs, you know, are well served. So that's my opinion on this question. So it is not saturated at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, I would like to hear the regulator's view on this. Mr. Alu Dogara earlier introduced himself as an official who works with the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So, in your opinion, do you think that the tax profession or the market today is saturated?
Good morning. Mr. Alu Dogara. I think the market is not yet saturated because as a tax, as a person working in FIRS, we know that some businesses still lack the skills on taxations because some of them doesn't even know how to file. Some are still struggling with some issues regarding to tax legislations and other things. So the market is not yet saturated. The market is still open. There's a lot to be done in taxation regards to the business people, the medium business, especially the medium businesses, to know the intricacies that are involved in paying taxes, because there are still a lot of gaps. As a tax collector, I know that some people are not still doing things right, and if we have more competent tax professional, I think the market is still open and not saturated yet. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that reaction. Again, so we've learned that we have a market of over 41 million SMEs and there are barely 30,000 tax professionals. So, I mean, going by those statistics alone, that the market is definitely not saturated. I mean, so there are so many young people today, and Mr. Anda, I'm coming to you, especially because you have a background in law, and I don't know that math is, the forte for most lawyers. And most people, when they think tax or tax profession, they're just thinking math, they're thinking numbers, and they even disqualify themselves before trying that. A lot of people, I went to Obafemi Awolowo University, for instance, and tax wasn't the easiest course to pass, right? And most people basically, even if they have an interest in taxation, but because of the way it's taught in the university, a lot of people avoid taxation either as a course or as a profession. So my question to you is taxation or the tax profession limited to accountants, or do you have to be a math guru to succeed as a tax professional?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and thank you to my co-panelists. I also want to say congratulations to the promoters of this panel. This is this program. This is very timely. And perhaps before I answer your question, I would just want to chip in one or two things to the earlier point made by my colleagues. Quickly, the population of taxpayers in this country, it's over 70 million. So you can also be so certain that the market is not saturated. Secondly, if you were to look at the tax to GDP ratio of Nigeria in the past 5-10 years, it's been hovering around 6% or 6.3%. So there's a lot of depth and scope, a lot to be done. So we're looking at a market that I would say is in its infancy. So, and to come to your question with respect to whether tax is left for dedicated to accountants, no, I wouldn't say so. Okay, although the history of this practice in Nigeria has been that the accountants were always at the forefront, and taxation is essentially not just compliance. It's not just about mathematics. It's not about counting the numbers or what people say the peanuts. It starts from the law. It starts from the law, and we need lawyers. And at every opportunity, I've said to lawyers to come on board, because we need to look at the law. And the law is informed by policy, a policy which is articulated by clear-minded people like lawyers. So I'm not suggesting that the others are not relevant. They're all very relevant. And tax is such a broad area. And if you look at the scope of tax, running from corporate tax, employee tax, estate planning, international tax, litigation, mergers and acquisition, you can see that there's room for everyone. And in my experience, I have come across the most unlikely people participating in tax. If you go to the UK or to the US or to France, you'll see that lawyers are very apt.
Oh, I think that we lost Mr. Anda.
I mean, what
Okay.
I can still hear you, though. I can still hear you.
Okay.
Am I back?
Please proceed, sir. Yes, we can hear
okay.
you now,
Yeah, I don't know what you heard last, but I'm basically saying that tax is not mathematics. Although in compliance, you might have to do a bit of number crunching. Tax proceeds from policy. Tax descends into law, and you need lawyers there. And I was just basically trying to conclude to say that even in Nigeria now, you have people who studied biochemistry, people who did zoology, who are in the big 4 consulting firms, and they're doing tax. And logical in thinking, and I see all those qualities with lawyers.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. I don't know if Mr. Anda has concluded yet, because there was a bit of... So, I mean, I think in summary, we can agree that lawyers are relevant in the tax profession because, according to Mr. Anda, tax proceeds from the law, and you also need policy to influence the law, and lawyers are or litter the entire tax profession from the big 4 and to law firms and practicing in-house. And I just wanted to move on from that conversation. So while I was speaking, or while Mr. Anda was speaking, we're joined by one of the panelists, Dr. Oluseyi Olanrewaju. I will just breeze through his profile, and then I can move to the next panelist to react to the question. So Dr. Oluseyi Olanrewaju is currently the Chief Financial Officer at Mixter Nigeria and Partner. He has held various roles in multinational organizations, including ExxonMobil, PwC, Zenith Bank PLC, MTN Nigeria, General Electric, Internet Solutions, Konga Online Shopping, and Vodacom Business Nigeria. He is a fellow of the ICANN, CITN, and several other professional organizations. He's a graduate of Yaba College of Technology and obtained a BSc in accounting from Oxford Brookes University, an MBA from Lagos State University, an MSc Finance from University of Leicester, and a PhD accounting from Charisma University. We're very happy and privileged to welcome you to the panel, Dr. Olanrewaju. If you're there, sir, you can just quickly say a few words to the attendees. I don't know if Dr. Olanrewaju can hear me. Okay, while we wait for Dr. Olanrewaju, I'll move on to Mrs. Ajala. You run strictly law business, so I know clearly you can speak to the importance of specialization and upskilling. So, in your opinion, and for young professionals, do you think it is such a great idea to immediately after leaving the university, or for lawyers, the law school, to start to carve a niche for oneself? I mean, especially because you don't become an expert on a subject. You don't become a subject matter expert, immediately after you leave the university, right? Is it such a great idea to specialize immediately after leaving university? Or, I mean, even if you don't think that is the case, what are the advantages of specialization and upskilling?
Thank you, Shion. So I think that specialization, it can be overemphasized. It's very good. It's important. But, to your question on should professionals, particularly your lawyers, should they specialize immediately after the university, immediately after becoming, lawyers? I think that because it's important that the moment you finish, whether as a profession, as a lawyer, or in whatever practice you are, whatever profession you are, I think it's better to learn the ropes, understand the dynamics of the particular industry, and I'm going to be speaking, specifically to lawyers, understand the dynamics of the legal industry, move around various aspects or various areas of law, and then with those experiences, you would be able to understand or know or decipher the particular area you are more comfortable with, where you want to develop, more competence, and then grow your specialization. Is specialization good? Absolutely very good, particularly in times of business, in the business world. It's what a specialist will be paid. A specialist will be able to command higher, professional fees than a generalist, because a generalist, it is assumed that you just know, the basics. You're not an expert in that area, and so there will be a limit to the professional advice or the opinions you'll be able to give. But as a specialist who, knows a whole lot within that industry, then you would be able to command more in terms of professional fees. Is it good to specialize at the beginning of your career? I wouldn't agree with that, except if while at the university, you've been able to prepare yourself, you've been able to do a whole lot of work, you've been able to do a lot of research to know, and then you are very sure and determined that this is the area in which you want to specialize in. But it is good as a lawyer to know almost every aspect of law, and then you get your specialization, you build your specialization in 2 or 3 areas of law. And so I say, yes, specialization is very good, it's very fantastic. But at the beginning of your career, I wouldn't advise or encourage you to specialize immediately. I would say it's better to go across all the areas of the law practice, learn the ropes, be comfortable, get comfortable with different areas of law, and then you can decide which area you want to go, you want to grow your specialization. Because the truth is, when you are an expert or you are known, in a particular field as a specialist in that industry or in that field, you'll be able to command more in terms of profit, in terms of professional fees. And I am big on profits, I'm big on income. So I would say specialization is good for us, and but then get competence in other areas before you decide which area you want to specialize in.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insights. I agree that today clients are looking for subject matter experts. It wouldn't just, I don't think it cuts it anymore that because you're tier 1, then clients will automatically rush to you. Some clients still go to, they go to boutique law firms, who have demonstrated expertise on a subject matter. So the specialization is in fact very good. Thank you for that. So I'll move to Dr. Olanwaju. I earlier gave or read out your profile. For you, sir, I would like to ask what exactly sparks you think that you're a tax scholar yourself. I'm sure you don't agree that tax is such a boring subject. So what exactly keeps your motivation to be the tax professional that you are today?
Thank you very much, the moderator. I've been having some network issues at my end, so I missed most of what my other colleagues have spoken on. But to go straight to your question, I will tell you that gone are the days where tax is monotonous and tiring and boring. A lot is happening now in the tax space, that the knowledge of yesterday, if you are not careful, will not be sufficient for you today. A major thing that is happening in the tax space is the new Finance Act, that keep changing some of our old laws that we can say are old, obsolete, and archaic. So what you see in the last 2 years is that some of these old laws have been changed or tweaked by the new Finance Act. And you can also see the play of technology in tax administration and practice. I mean, the recent one is the ProMast news platform. So for me, it's no longer boring. It's becoming dynamic. It's becoming, an ink theme. You also hear many scholars saying taxation is the new oil. So, I mean, a lot of focus is coming to tax now, which have not been there before now. So, we are in for an interesting time in the tax space. Yeah.
Right. Looks like we've lost Shem, the moderator.
Wow, the network is really bad this morning.
Okay, he's back. Okay, I think. Is he back? Yeah.
Yes, so can you hear me now? I think I'm back on.
We can.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm back on. So Dr. Olarinwaju, I'm not sure I heard most of it, but I think a follow-on question to that is, in your opinion, how exactly can people develop, or for somebody who's just setting out, who's just looking to specialize, what's your advice for somebody who's just setting out in tax? What exactly do you think are the top skills that they should pay attention to, if you want to excel in tax? Do you think that the way to easily set yourself apart is it through a higher degree, for instance, or do you think it is by getting certified by a professional body, or a little bit of both? So some people are, torn between those two options today, either to go for further studies or to be certified by a professional body, ICANN, ACCA, along those, or the CITN, right? Or is it a bit of both?
Thank you very much. For me, tax is a specialized area, and I would say for anyone that wants to go into it, that will really succeed. Number one, there must be passion. You must love tax. You must understand the language of tax and all that, because it's a specialized area. Then I will also say that for such an individual, if you really want to understand the nitty-gritty, then you must also learn from people, either through articleship or through mentoring or coaching, so that you understand the art of tax. I tell people tax is not for everybody. It's for people that have passion for it and are ready to be focused and specialize in it. So that passion, that articleship is very key. Then you also mentioned something about certification. The world is changing. Gone are the days where to run in a specialized environment, you don't need to be certified. But in these days and time, you need to actually be certified. We've seen circulars from Federal Inland Revenue. We've seen circular from State Internal Revenue Services saying that it's only people that have certain qualification that will be able to practice tax. So for me, I would say for you to be able to practice and be the professional that you have, that is important to also get certification of any of the professional that you have mentioned. One that is very pronounced in Nigeria for taxation is the CITN, and of course, ICANN is also there, ACCA and the rest of them. So being certified makes you a professional to the core, and you're able to do filing on behalf of your clients and all that, and you'll be recognized. So that would be my advice for anybody. And you cannot also undermine the place of articleship, learning the role of taxation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure the attendees are taking notes. So I'm going to go back to Olatunji Razak. I know that you've worked with very reputable brands. What do you think? And I mean, in my experience as well, once you have certain names on your CV, HR just thinks deductively that if he was good enough for that organization, then he's good enough for us. So for young and for tax professionals, how important is it to have certain brand names on your CV? Again, this is Tax Inspire Conference. This is sort of like a live mentoring program. That is how I see it. So there is no point reinventing the wheel. So we can learn from your errors, from your mistakes, or what do you think you should have done? If you could do it all over again, what do you think you would have done differently? So is it by starting out doing the internships? And I hear Dr. Larimaju saying, and I think Mrs. Ajala as well, that you should learn the ropes. So you should usually start out, doing internships. What exactly do you think the approach should be for you to be that ideal tax professional?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Moderator. Well, like I said, I'm going to use my own personal experience because I don't believe in in theories. I don't believe in theories, so I'm going to share my own life experience in terms of what inspired me and what can also inspire young tax professional. Back in the days when I was in the university, I took interest in taxation from my second year at the university, and my thesis was actually on tax. You know the usual practice those days when people just go to other universities, to copy and paste projects and the likes. So I actually, and my project was actually supervised by a PhD holder in the person of Dr. Iwarere. I think he's now a professor. So, during that stage, I'm able to, understand what it is about in terms of research, understanding some certain, laws in taxation, and then to actually, understand that, yes, tax is actually a specialized area. Let me borrow from the medical area, where we have this medical general practice, we also have surgeons. So as we have accountants, economists, and lawyers who are into taxation, tax is like you are specializing. It's like, looking at the area of medical practice and say, oh, yes, you are a surgeon. So it's a very, very specialized area. For example, after my project, I joined EY, I joined Ernst & Young, briefly, though I was in audit, but, I wasn't enjoying audit, and I told them, look, I want to move to tax. And my managers keep telling me, oh, you are very good in audit. Why do you want to move to tax? And I said, look, this is what I want. So after back and forth, and it wasn't coming through, I was lucky to got an opportunity with Schlumberger to be their tax accountant. And from there, I also developed interest in writing articles. I think currently I have about 6 published articles in international journals. So what I'm saying in essence is that, one, just like my senior colleagues, earlier mentioned, you must have passion for it. You must be able to, ready to learn, because things are actually changing, and it's changing really, really fast. So if you want to specialize in tax, one, you need a mentor, you need, a coach, and then you also need to be determined and focus. Focus in the sense that you must be able to keep yourself abreast of things happening in the tax environment, because a lot are happening these days. FIRS are more aggressive. Mr. Aliu Dogara, I know you can hear that. FIRS are more aggressive now, in terms of, revenue generation, and the oil revenue is gradually dwindling. So they are more focused on tax. Like my senior colleague said, tax is the new oil. So that's just it. I think tax is the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Indeed, tax is the future. And just to piggyback off of that, I will be going to Mr. Anda. So, Mr. Anda, again, I strongly believe that the easiest way, and I think Mr. Abdurazak also mentioned this, the easiest way to become an expert on a subject matter is not by talking about it only, is actually by writing about it. Do you agree, first of all? And how important is it for aspiring tax professionals to cultivate that habit of publishing and then, especially on topical issues, and trying to further push the scholarship around taxation and in Nigeria.
Thank you, Seun. I couldn't agree more with what my colleagues have said. You need the passion. You need to dirty your hands, and do the job. You need to be reading because it's such a dynamic area. Things are changing. Today, we're using technology, and you see how the digital economy is moving. So obviously, some people have to be there. Ideas move the world.
Hello, Mr. Anda. We can't hear you. I think the network is
ideas move the world. People need to solve.
Hello, Mr. Anda. Oh, so while we're waiting for...
Okay, it looks like we're having this constant challenge with the network.
We can hear you.
Well, okay. Yeah, I had to stop and wait because I noticed it's a very challenging environment. We need people to continue to think and articulate their views, of course, share their experiences and carry out research. And as we all know, there are bodies out there doing research in several areas. Tax, apart from being specialized, it's a very broad area, very, very broad area. Where are you specializing in? As my colleagues have said, yeah, you have to learn the ropes, but at some point in time, you want to specialize. Are you specializing in international tax? Are you specializing in corporate tax, benefits tax? These all need you being very focused, open-minded, doing research, publishing what you've researched, sharing information. Thought leadership couldn't be underplayed. It's important. So I totally agree with Abdul Razak that this is very important, and it has to complement all the other things. And there are very many institutions currently carrying out research in these areas. OECD, for instance, has been doing a lot of work, and I'm sure we've all been following up on what is happening on BEPS, the base erosion, and of course, we also know there's economic significance thing, a theory going on. People need to think and write about it. And all I would say at this point is that we must use our ideas, our challenges, our thoughts, our problems, present and publish on those areas. Of course, advance knowledge in taxation.
Thank you so much.
Let me leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your reaction to that. And I think yourself and Mr. Abdulrazak have indeed hit the nail on the head. And I will move on to Mrs. Ajala on this very important subject. So for me, I'm just wondering that when you're setting out, or what do you think when HR is trying to either tax administrators or tax professionals? What are those specific things that you would look out for? So for your organization, if you're advising any other organization, what exactly is that value add that the candidate must bring to the table that will stand them out from other candidates in the market, especially for a tax role?
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Moderator. Going by what my other panelists have said, so it's important if you are applying for a tax role, it's important. Then I want to assume that you already are certified, in that field. You had your you're not just a learner, you're not a beginner in that field. You are specialized by way of getting some certification from either the CITN, ICANN, as was mentioned. It's important that that is in place. It's also important that they're coming on board with some requisite experience. For tax is a specialized role, and so as much as, and then depending also on the organization and their outcome. So you may want to hire, an expert, or you may want to hire an intermediate, someone who has an intermediate, experience level as far as tax is concerned. So depending on the role, that would also determine if you want to bring somebody on board as, an advanced, expert in that field, intermediate, or someone who has just the basic knowledge and skills. Having said that, I also think that it is important that, or it should come with the role or with the expertise that a tax professional or someone who is vying for a tax role should be someone who has some high level of organizational skills and attention to details, because that is very, very important. If you do not, now we'll be talking about figures, we'll be talking about numbers, as much as there are other aspects of tax also, but the figures, the numbers are quite important. So you need someone who has great organizational skills and someone who gives a lot of attention to details. Someone who is calm, who has the ability to stay calm on the job, and can come with a whole lot of attention to details, who is highly skilled at that particular aspect of taxation. And I mean also, I know that there are different aspects to taxation, and also you want to be sure that you're getting someone who has requisite experience in that particular aspect of taxation, and someone who knows his or her onions, teachable, and has the willingness and readiness to learn at all times, because I mean there's no end to knowledge, and so you have to keep updating yourself and keep upskilling, getting more knowledge, and also knowing what is available in the international market, not just the Nigerian market now, but as well as the international market as far as tax is concerned. So you want to ensure that you get someone who is always up to date, who is ready to keep updating his or her knowledge as far as tax is concerned.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So organizational skills is definitely top of that. Knowledge of the subject and commercial awareness, just being aware of what the trends are in your industry. Thank you so much. So Mr. Dogara, I think this is a perfect opportunity to tell the other tax professionals how they can make your life easier. As a regulator, what do you think, that tax professionals should do? What exactly? I mean, I heard you complain that some people still don't know how to file tax return appropriately. Are there places to look? Are there resources that they can learn from? Do you have to be in? Do you have to learn this from somewhere? Again, I think the other thing that is important is that you decided to go the way of the regulator rather than work for Schlumberger or for EY or PwC. What exactly was the inspiration for you? Sometimes people who are very policy minded, myself included, I definitely am excited whenever I have to write policies, and that's the reason I would want to consider working for government. But then I speak to people who either experiences working with government and they're frustrated because
I'm hearing you. Hello?
Of they're frustrated because hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So I'm sorry for
Hello,
that
can
network
hear you.
glitch. So the last point I was making is, do you, from the perspective of someone on the inside, do you think that the FIRS or any government agency, they are, very open-minded and open to change? That if for somebody who is motivated, who wants to join the government, wouldn't are those ideas taken on board? And do you is this something that you encourage other people to do, that working for the government in that regard?
Thank you very much, the moderator. Tax profession is a noble profession that one need to be honest, at least, and in tax profession, you need to have a little bit of knowledge of tax laws, and also you need to also be to understand the business environment. And in FIRS, we know the environment of tax is not yet saturated, and I know that we encourage people like tax professionals to still go into other areas. They are welcome. There are still a lot to explore in tax, in terms of collection of taxes, and professionals have to be rounded, to educate and make people know that yes, these are the nitty-gritty that are involved in tax practice. And taxation is something that is not a close-ended something. We have stakeholders, so we still have collaborations with other experts in order to allow us to perform well. So other professionals are welcome in collection of tax. As tax administration, we collaborate with other stakeholders that are professionals in helping to collect our tax. So I will say that FIRS we are still open to professionals that are still interested in taxations, and we believe that they can help us in many other ways to be able to make our work easier if they have the requisite knowledge and they have the requisite skills that are being used in collection of taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So in the interest of time, I think I will just look through the comments to see if there are any questions directed to any of the panelists. And I think if you have any questions, now is the time, so that we can round this off. So I see a question here about specialization. I beg your pardon. How would that apply to a young lawyer who works as an in-house counsel with a company? That in itself sets the work trajectory of the lawyer's career at the onset. So I don't know if anyone here would like to react. Mr. Abdulrazak, and seeing that you've worked, or Dr. Oluseyi, seeing that you've worked in-house at some point, how would you react to this? Mr. Abdulrazak, do you want to take that? Should I take the question?
Thank you. So if I'm to react to that,
yes.
And I think I picked it. So I said, if I'm to react to that, the first question I'm going to ask is that if you look at the practice of tax, we have the legal part of it, the law, and we have the accounting part of it. So the first question I will ask the gentleman or gentle lady is to say, the tax firm where is working, are they also doing tax? So if they are not doing tax, then the probability of him being able to do tax subsequently will be a bit difficult. So he needs to look for a law firm or a tax firm where they actually practice tax for him to be able to learn and be able to position himself for future, focusing on tax. That's what I want to add there.
Thank you so much.
I think I'd like to also say, speak to that question.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I think the first thing I would say is, and I'm going to share from my experience. I was very clear at the beginning of my career on where I wanted to work, and even as far as the location was concerned also. So I had set goals for myself that when it comes to the location of my my employer's office or wherever, I'm not going beyond this location. So if you tell me that there are jobs in Lekki, in Victoria Island, I had pegged my location to Lagos Island, Ikoyi, and I wasn't going to go outside of those jurisdictions. So I think, again, one of the things you need to understand is if you actually are interested in tax or you want to specialize in tax, then you have to seek for firms, organizations, entities that that is what they specialize in or that is what they do. So you have to be very clear and intentional. You have to be very clear and intentional about the places you want to work, such that if there are opportunities in other places, you would turn it down because you are clear, on your goals, on your career goals. So you have to gain that clarity on the exact place you want to work, and based on that, based on that clarification, you will then be able to scout for organizations or law firms that would give you the opportunity to gain knowledge in tax and grow your specialization in that area. Now, as your in-house counsel, the die has been cast, so I assume you're already working in some place, but what can you do going forward to get into that tax space you want to operate in? You can, one of the things you can do is, put yourself out there, especially on LinkedIn, as a tax enthusiast. Show interest in anything about tax. Begin to write articles, like has been said before, in that area, such that at the end of the day, when recruiters are looking for, or HR consultants are looking for professionals or are looking for people who can occupy or fill a role in that area, you will be identified and you can be reached out to, and that's one way you'll be able to get the necessary that's one way you'll be able to get a role, either within an organization or a law firm. So just show a lot of enthusiasm in tax, show interest, build your interest, and demonstrate, make yourself visible. Demonstrate the fact that you have knowledge and you also want to begin to play in that industry or in that particular area.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think Mr. Abdurazak, so that we can round the session off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you once again. Like I said, I always like to share practice, practical experience. I have a mentee whom I believe is also, in this session. He actually showed interest in tax, but unfortunately, maybe at the beginning of his career, he couldn't get, an opportunity, with any particular firm, to practice, tax. So one of the things I told him that you just show interest, go on LinkedIn, do research, write on tax, and then I can assure you, you're going to get something. So, at least he took my advice and he started writing some topics on VAT, personal income tax. And to be honest with you, within 6 months, somebody, from LinkedIn inboxed him and said, look, I have an opportunity for you, to, in our tax unit. That's an industry now, in our tax unit, to come and, join us, to come and join our team. So just like my colleague said, Mrs. Ajala, like she mentioned, you need to show interest. You need to write, because the truth about it is that, like I said, you need to be more realistic. If you are saying people must wait till they get opportunity in a tax environment, what if it doesn't come? Because the first thing is the survival instinct. Whatever you can get, at least get hold of it first, so that at least you can survive, you can sustain yourself. Then, start showing interest in those particular areas that, you want to specialize on. So to cut this story short, the guy currently works, in a tax firm at the moment. And that's just to show you that those are things that are realistic. Because if you keep saying I want to wait, I have to get a job in Big Four, I have to wait for EY, I have to wait for look, time is going and time is not on your side. So why not get something first, get something doing, and eventually once that opportunity opens up, you can then take advantage of it. So that's my own contribution with respect to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdulrazak. It has indeed been a wonderful session. I thank you, Dr. Olarinwaju, Mr. Dogara, Mrs. Ajala, and again, Mr. Abdulrazak. It's been, you've been very helpful sharing your personal experiences as well. I will now hand over to the moderator. Okay, I see Mr. Anda has joined. Thank you, Mr. Anda, as well, for this wonderful session. I would hand over to the compare so that we can take this forward.
Thank you very much, Oluwaseun Ayinla Sage. Do really appreciate. I must confess that was an interesting session. The panelists were definitely very, very quick to address the topics and questions that I put forth to them in a very simple manner. Certain words reoccurred throughout that particular session to include specialization, articleship, passion, research, writing, mentorship, coaching, updates with knowledge of the subjects, commercial awareness, amongst others. I'm certain that the audience have taken note of these words and even more, and will be able to put them to good use to become professionals in the area of taxation law and tax practice generally. Thank you very much once again, Oluwaseun, for that very insightful session that you just helped us to handle. Going forward immediately, without much ado, and also to beat time, we would immediately move to the next item on the agenda. It should be a speech from our guest speaker, who will be speaking on the role of academia, multilateral institutions, and tax administrators, the future of tax. To coordinate and moderate this particular session will be a popularly known household name in the entertainment and legal space in Nigeria, who is popularly known as King Pexin. He has had and carved for himself a niche in the area of entertainment and legal practice over the years. We are currently serving as a partner at Lekan Bamidele & Co., a TCC legal advisory law firm in Lagos, Nigeria. His presence to the Nigerian music industry and Africa cannot be underestimated, which has landed him the award of the fourth most influential young Nigerian of 2018, alongside Davido, footballer Ahmed Musa, and many more. Further to this, he got the number 4 spot on the high-profile list called the Top 17 Young Social Media Influencers of 2017. He's a graduate of the great Afe Babalola University, where he gained his LLB degree and further went to obtain his BL from Nigerian Law School and finished with a second-class upper division, which qualified him to go to the Nigerian bar. In his days at the University of Afe Babalola University, was regarded by many as a very responsible, social, and jovial person. He went on to hold the office of the PRO, the Director of Socials, and other offices. He won the most social male amongst other awards, even throughout his stay at the university. He also carried out his extension program in 2016 with Lola Bolarinwa and Co., a distinguished law firm in Victoria Garden City of Lagos. He has worked diligently in several places, including in service year and other activities which he has performed over time. Describing him without adding the word philanthropist and humanitarian, his accolade is not going to be complete. In 2015, he gave back to the less privileged in Abuja. with his fight and war against malaria in Makoko slum of Lagos, November 2016, sharing over 10,000 mosquito nets and drugs to residents. So much more to speak about this person, but simply to conclude, his love for brand building and digital marketing has earned him his favorite spot on the list of major multinational brands like One.org, Pepsi, Union Bank, American Honey, McDowell, Coca-Cola Nigeria, Intel, HP, MTN Nigeria, Globalcom, Sunlight, Metal, Udula, etc. He was also in the Goodluck Jonathan's presidential online media campaign team from 2014 till the year 2015 presidential election. Strong prowess in online marketing, brand building, entertainment has made him private. As a private lawyer, he's also known to so many, and also his influence in the Nigerian entertainment industry keep giving him the superstar spots amongst many brands. Please join me to introduce Bamidele Olamilekan as he ends the session. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Timileyin, for that introduction. It was very astute and comprehensive. So my name is Bamidele Olamilekan, and I'm here to start this conference with Professor Stephen Dean. Professor Stephen Dean is a professor of law at the Brooklyn Law School. His teaching focuses on individuals and corporate tax. He writes and podcasts about tax law, social enterprise. His scholarship addresses the impact of neoliberalism and also racial capitalism, and the evolving relationship between financial profit and social mission. Now, his social mission is evident in the emergence of social enterprise, impact investing, and unregulated philanthropy. Professor Stephen Dean, in addition to traditional law review articles and essays in journals such as the NYU Law Review and also the Emory Law Journal, Dean has written for a range of publications, including The Nation. He has also co-authored 2 books, which is the Federal Taxation of Corporations and Corporate Transactions, that's the Aspen Publishers 2018 with Brad Burden, and also Social Enterprise Law, which is on trust, public benefits, and capital markets for the Oxford University Press 2017 with Dana Brackman-Reza. He has also served as a vice dean at the Brooklyn Law School, and while a visiting professor of law at the NY State School of Law. He also acted as a faculty director of his graduate tax program. He is a member of the executive committee of the New York State Bar Association on tax section and his committee on professional ethics. Professor Stephen Dean has graduated from Yale Law School and earned his undergraduate degree in political economy at Williams College. He's previously practiced tax at the law office of Debevoise and Plimpton and Kravitz, Swain and Moore. With highest regards, please let us welcome our professor and the guest speaker for this particular session, Professor Stephen Dean.
All right, thank you very much, Bamidele. And just before Bamidele comes right back on, we just felt it's right to also look through quickly what exactly has been said so far from our audience. We take it back quite seriously, and that's why we want to quickly look through to see exactly how the session has been so far. We've just done one part of 3 major parts outside the other sub-parts which will come up. and let's see what the feedbacks are so far. So I'll be reading a few comments from the comments and chat box. We have one, Abiola Oluwaseun. Thanks to the conveners, it's great to be part of this conference. Good morning, everyone present. Very grateful to be present in this conference. I can see a few questions which I would read out, but I'm sure we'll get a means to address those questions in due course. Other comments, what an amazing event, so excited to be part of it. So I'll quickly take one of the questions now. Once again, I must be very quick to apologize for the interruption which has occurred as a result of the network so far through the program. We are getting there, we're getting better every day, but we must continue to manage such situations and ensure that this does not take us back steps or take us backwards as a result of the challenges which we may face. So someone says, I think I had A's in both semesters during my uni days in the law of taxation. So how do we proceed now? What are the steps to becoming a tax professional now? So I don't know. Our panelists are definitely off the session for now, but it's certain and clear that this person requires clarification, and I'm sure means will be put out before the end of the events to ensure that some questions are being addressed. Another question says about specialization. How would that apply to a young lawyer who works as in-house counsel with a company? That in itself sets the work trajectory of lawyers' career on the onset. Very interesting question. I'm not definitely an expert enough for you to respond to these questions. I wish I was able to give immediate answer to this question, but since I can't give that immediate answer, as rightly stated, responses will be given to these questions by putting out a form which will be able to get these feedback and these questions attended to in due course. Information on that given as time goes on. I will always be grateful to Akinola Olaran for introducing me to tax. Okay, someone giving an appreciation there, noting very much that mentorship has been mentioned as one of the important parts for anyone who intends to take that thread of going through being a professional in taxation generally. And then this person is simply giving a shout out to someone who has been able to give direction in that means. And at the end of the day, I think that's something really great for the mentor in this sense, to know that he has been able to give direction to someone else. Other comments, very true. People need to think and write about tax. Yeah. So I think this is basically giving more credence to one of the comments, or rather comments that we occurred during the first panel session, wherein we were able to see that many of the panelists continue to speak on the importance of writing, not just having an interest, but going forward to research on the topic of taxation generally and putting down those research results into papers and articles, so it can be able to form a very clear opinion on your interest and also open up opportunities for you. So much more in the comments box. A big thank you to the seasoned panelists and eloquent moderator. That's for you and also the panelists for first session. Once again, we cannot but appreciate that particular powerful session, which was very interesting, and had Dr. Olarinwaju Oluseyi, Olatunji Abdulrazak, Olubusola Ajala, Mr. Edem Anda, Mr. Aludogara as part of the panelists for that particular session. We cannot but go ahead to, again, just for those who are just stepping in to the event for today, we are talking on the future of tax practice in Nigeria, Game Changers. Tax Inspire Conference 2021 is where we are, and definitely you can be rest assured that we have so much more informative, educative, and interesting sessions to come up in due course. as rightly stated, is the event, which is a global tax conference to inspire the next generation of women in tax, tax administrators, tax practitioners, and also professionals. Thank you very much, and continue to stay back. You can make use of the comment section in a very, very good way by giving us your feedback and let us know exactly how far the program has been so far. You can also be quick to give us feedbacks. What exactly are you looking out for at the end of the event? If you don't get that, quickly call our attention to it. Trust me, responses will be made available. And possibly, you don't know, maybe Taxes Conference 2022 may just be the right answer for that particular session. But so far, I'm sure having a great experience and a great time. Shortly before the next session comes up, really be quick to remind that we'll have a second panel session, which would focus on the role of blockchain and technology in tax administration. Amongst members and panelists include Dr. Adeni Onamusi, Dr. Armstrong Tagen, Mr. Femi Olarinde, Naomi Thompson, Mr. Alfredo Loza. I'm sure that will be another interesting and enlightening session, while we just encourage you to sit back and relax. So we also have a key address, even in due course, and we have another distinguished professor who will be delivering this as we go on. A panel session will also take place, which is very much focused and having the topic role of women in tax, our story. We have panelist sessions include Nana Safo, Lucky Star Miandazi, Abimbola Abdul Rahman Leki. We have Professor Anna Paula Dorado, and we have Temitayo Akinyosi. On that session, we'll have a great person also moderate, as I'll keep on saying. At the right time, we'll get to unveil the moderators for each session. Quickly now, we'll just allow you to catch your breath even as we prepare for the next session. Please stay tuned and make use of the comments box. Let us have your feedback. All right, thank you very much and welcome back to our very great audience. It's really been interesting to have you. And I'm quick to say good afternoon. It really shows how far the day is already moving. And we are certain that at the end of the event, you'd have so much more to be able to say you've taken out of these events. Joining me right immediately on is a very interesting personality. Bamidele Olamilekan. I read his profile just some moments ago, and while reading, sincerely, I must be quick to say I had to cut short the profile because forget how young the face looks, and he has actually achieved a lot, and there's so much to say in reading that profile. So just to hear know more about Bamidele Olamilekan within this short period before we move into the next session. Bamidele, over to you. Can you kindly just tell us a little bit more about you and maybe some other aspects you've done in relation to tax?
Yes. Okay. So primarily, I just like the profile said, I went to Fabiola University, finished in 2015, got called to Nigerian Bar 2016, and started a law firm in 2019. Right. And one thing I've come to realize, with the entire Tax Inspire conference is it sort of, opens it opens up, various opportunities that I probably have been, overlooking to an extent. And, I think when I was called upon, to be at this particular conference, what I did immediately was I started, because for me, for one, I always ensure that for all the companies that I run, we never fail with, remitting taxes, which is what I think Tax House, has been able to help us achieve. You understand? And I started speaking to a couple of my clients because most people don't see the need, or the essence of the importance of actually remitting taxes. And I think this is simply because they have that idealistic point of view of why am I remitting taxes? I mean, these taxes are going to the pocket of political public office holders, right? And these are I feel like they are myths that need to be broken down, to sort of demystify all of all these assumptions as to why people don't necessarily remit their taxes. And I think the Tax House and Delux Lega and those that have brought about this program together, they've been able to sufficiently do that over the years. So I, for one, for one of the convener of this particular Tax Inspire conference, which is Chidi Omoshebi, is being very helpful when it comes to ensuring that personally I get my clients to remit their taxes. It's more or less a civil right, which I think we should bring up more conversations about that to people, so that they understand, not just for lawyers now, not just for those that want to work in tax offices, for the normal business owner, for the normal entrepreneur that is on the street. Now, my law firm focuses majorly on startups, and most of these startups they don't consider tax as one of the important things for them to even invest in, when it comes to, what do we do for the year? We want to set up, what are the things that we have to do, even from the point of incorporation. They don't consider the type of business they should register, because that's what will affect the kind of tax that you pay eventually. So when we have more conversations like this, going on in this sort of conference, I feel like it opens, much more room for conversations for even those that are not lawyers, for those that are not in the tax, for those that are not, already in the tax system. It sorts of brings like a bright bulb idea moment for people that are looking to set up businesses, people that are already in businesses that have not seen the reason or the purpose, of paying taxes. So, I mean, that's pretty much, my one set when it comes to, this particular conversation of taxes. And also, thank you so much for those that have started this conference. It's a conversation that should go on constantly, almost every time, because people need to keep hearing it. Tax is probably one of the most, let me say, the most feared topic when it comes to most people, because when you hear tax, they just hear paying money for nothing. So when they hear tax, different things come to mind. They don't see it as an obligation. They just see it as a way of people trying to supposedly just take off money from them. So when we have conversations like this, it sorts of changes narratives, and it also opens people up to engaging in remitting taxes and also knowing more about taxes. So yes, pretty much.
I think I'm really glad about the way your response went, the trajectory of your response. It's actually very clear. Now it helps me to have more clarity on other areas that you actually get to answer for us. First of all, I understand from your profile that you have certain interest in entertainment law. And
yes,
now you're making us know that you actually also pay your tax for all the companies that you actually have business with. It's quite interesting because that brings us to one very big question on how much the entertainment industry generally is being taxed. Are they really taxed? If they are, do they really get to pay these taxes? Are there exemptions for the entertainment industry? And these are questions that gets to run through my mind, and I'm sure you are in a perfect position as a compliance person to actually respond to this question.
Yes. Okay. So ordinarily, I mean, no one is above being taxed. That's the foundation for me, regardless of the industry that you're in. You understand? There are different tax guidelines that's of or the acts as frameworks, for different sectors that you're in. Now, for an entertainment lawyer like me, a lot of my clients actually get letters from FIRS. I think sometimes last year, a client of mine, which is Lekon, I want the people in Nigeria show, I think when he was conferred with a political position, and also given some cash by the governor of his state, which is the Ogun State governor. I think a week after, we got a mail from the FIRS, saying, oh, it would be nice, to pay his tax. This is like the second time I've seen it happen. I think it also happened in 2018 or 2017 when we had the show for Davido, when he said he made, I think, $1 billion from his show. The next thing we saw was, like FIRS reminding that, oh, it would be nice for you to remit your taxes. So yes, people in the entertainment sector are not excluded from remitting taxes simply because this is you earn in this particular field, and you also render services, professional or however you want to categorize it. You earn from it and provide services to people. So it's only right that you also remit taxes. And now the type of tax that they pay, I think, is not dependent on the on the side of the scale that they are on. So most times whenever people try to engage most of my clients, always advise them to put the 7.5% VAT charge, because at the end of the entire, fiscal year, I want to ensure that you're able to say, even for the barest minimum, I'm able to remit, this particular amount of money as tax, and then that's why we have tax professionals like yourself, GD and the rest, to also guide these people, on ways in which they would, properly remit their taxes. So I think, I'm not sure if that sufficiently answers the questions I asked.
Definitely.
One thing I know is that's the fact that entertainment personals, pay their taxes. They're able to pay their taxes and ensure that they remit. Now, I don't know what the what the punishment, penalty is, for those that are not able to remit. I feel there's also another system that, the government should look into, to ensure that there is proper compliance, So it's more of words and actions, not just, a lot of words, and then less actions for people who don't comply. So that's pretty much.
Thank you very much, Bamidele. Really great. You responded to the question just as been asked. I wish we had more time to converse on this, but definitely it's just about time for us to move on to another very insightful and interesting aspect of today's program. Bamidele will be again reading the profile of our guest speaker for this particular session. We'll be speaking on the role of academia, multilateral institutions, and tax administrators in the future of tax. So Bamidele, over to you, even as you bring on stage our guest speaker.
Thank you so very much, Timileyin. Thank you so very much. Yes, so for the next sector of this particular conference, we'll be bringing on Professor Stephen Dean, who is a professor of law at the Brooklyn Law School. Professor Stephen Dean is a professor of law at the Brooklyn Law School, and his teachings focuses on individuals and corporate tax. He writes and podcasts about tax laws and social enterprise. His scholarship addresses the impact of neoliberalism and capitalism, and also the evolving relationship between financial profit and social mission, evident in the emergence of social enterprises, impact investing, and unregulated philanthropy. Professor Stephen Dean, in addition to traditional law review articles, he reviews law articles and essays in journals such as the NYU Law Review and the Emory Law Journal. Dean has written for a range of publications, including The Nation. He has also co-authored 2 books, particularly, which is the Federal Taxation of Corporations and Corporate Transactions, with the Aspen Publishers in 2018, with Braden Borden, and also Social Enterprise Law, which is for trust, public benefits, and capital markets, with the Oxford University Press 2017, with Dana Brookman-Reiser. He has also served as Vice Dean at Brooklyn Law School, and while a visiting professor of law at the NYU School of Law, he also acted as a faculty director of his graduate tax program. He's a member of the executive committee of the New York State Bar Association, which is on their tax sector, and committee on professional ethics. Professor Dean graduated from Yale Law School and earned his undergraduate degree in political economy at Williams College. He's previously practiced tax law at the Debevoise, Plimpton, and Cravath, Swain and Moore law firm. with the highest regards, please let us welcome our guest speaker for this particular session, which is Professor Stephen Dean. Professor Dean, please join us on stage.
Good morning, and thank you so much for that very warm welcome. It's just such a pleasure to be here with you. And I can say I wish I probably was a member of the Executive Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association's tax section. That would be pretty incredible. What I want to talk to you today about is the future of our global tax system, how it's going to take the shape of the future. And how all of us are going to play a role in making that happen. And I'm going to do that by telling you a story. I'm going to tell you the story of how over the past few months, I've been able to play a small role in encouraging the Biden administration to change some aspects of how it approaches the world. And I'm going to do that by telling not just my story, but the story of two people that I've come to know in their roles as academics and also in their roles as now members of the Biden administration. So these two women are people that I've known for years, more or less, and I'm going to tell you about one of them first. So one of them, who's now a lead advisor to the Treasury Secretary, Rebecca Kaiser, is somebody I worked with for many years at Brooklyn Law School and who also practiced with me at Cravath, Swaine & Moore for a few years, or we didn't practice there at the same time, but we both practiced there. She joined Brooklyn Law School and became an academic like me, and I was very excited about that. She began writing about what she was passionate about, and this is, of course, the fun part about being an academic. You can write about what you care about and have an influence on the way the rules you care about take shape. So what she chose to write about was something that was becoming very popular in the United States at the time. These were rules designed to sunset or cause to expire tax provisions. So the thinking was that this was very popular for a while. We could contain the tendency of policymakers to hand out tax benefits to taxpayers, low rates, special breaks, loopholes, by causing all of these provisions to expire after a certain amount of time. This was something that became really something a lot of people really thought was the way that we would solve all of our problems. She was not so sure, and I think she was right to not be so sure. And so she took it upon herself to say so. And this made her, for a time, extremely unpopular. She showed through her research and writing why these sunsets, these causing these tax provisions to expire, was not going to solve all of our problems. It was not going to make all of these provisions go away. In fact, she showed that what it would tend to do over time was to create even more of them, or at least make them more desirable for policymakers. Because they would be able to, every time one expired or threatened to expire, they would be able to extract more interest from their constituents. So this would not do away with the sunsets. She argued it would just make them more of a problem. So this is her right as an academic, right? So she gets to write about what she likes and say what she likes about it. And what was so interesting about this was that she, as it turns out, made the wrong person angry. She attracted the attention of a former head of what we have in the United States, the Joint Committee on Taxation, a committee that advises both the House and Senate chambers of our legislature on tax matters. And he had been a proponent of these sunsets, and he decided that she was not only wrong, but dangerous. And so he decided that he would write an article specifically responding to what she had said, and essentially saying she was wrong. And this played out over time. She had not been as provocative. She at this time was a very junior woman scholar at a not very fancy school, Brooklyn. and he had been the head of this really prestigious policy organ, and also was a professor at a much more prominent school. And so she hadn't taken him on directly. He decided that he wanted to take her on directly. And what unfolded over the next few months, years, they not only engaged in writing, but they were brought together for a series of public debates. And the consensus was that after all was said and done, was that she won. Everybody agreed that she was right, that this policy innovation, these sunsets that everybody thought was going to make the tax system pure, were themselves dangerous and were unlikely to solve all the problems, and in fact would probably make things worse than they had been. So I just always admired her for that, both for her courage in saying what she thought was right, that the sunsets were just a shiny new object that people thought would solve all our problems, but in fact were unlikely to do that. And she wrote it. She wrote it with passion. She wrote it with clarity, and she spoke about it. She engaged in public debate with somebody who was not only decades her senior, but much more prominent, held important government posts, and was vindicated. And now very few people talk about the sunset provisions, and she is now one of the leading advisors to our Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. So I think there is a lesson there for everybody out there who is considering, when they look at tax policy, thinking about whether they agree or disagree with what prominent policymakers are doing, and that they should, if they feel they have a point to make, they should make it. Because no matter how prominent or how powerful their opponents are, when you're an academic, what really matters are your ideas. And if you have ideas that are powerful, you are powerful. And that is, I think, the lesson to take away from that. The other person that I wanted to briefly mention is now another senior policymaker in the Biden administration, Kim Klosing, who I was fortunate to have as one of the very first guests on my podcast, The Tax Maven, that I hosted when I was at NYU Law School. She is somebody who also followed her passions. She, in the year after Donald Trump was elected president, and had been advocating for policies that were really one she disagreed with, and that many people disagreed with, but he was advocating for tariffs and protectionism, against free trade. This was really what he argued in favor of. He drew a lot of support from working class Americans by arguing that the free trade policies that had been pursued over time were bad for workers and were the reason that workers were suffering. She decided that she was going to essentially write a book explaining why Donald Trump was wrong and why we needed to pursue free trade and in order to protect our workers. So our last hero took on an idea. This hero took on the president, and she wrote a book that was published in Harvard University Press called Open, that made the case for free trade, not as a problem for workers, but as a solution for workers. So again, she saw a problem that she was passionate about, and she knew how to address the problem, and she went ahead and wrote this book that would really make the case logically, clearly, articulately for why you needed to embrace free trade in order to protect workers and to make America stronger. So she was not anti-American as Donald Trump would suggest. She was proud and was somebody who really intended to make the country stronger rather than weaker. And she herself didn't have public debates with Donald Trump the way Professor Kaiser did with her interlocutor. But she ultimately, I think, proved her point. She was somebody who was able to make that case. She certainly came on my podcast and talked about it, and was prominent in a lot of media circles, and made the case that she had made that free trade was something that benefited workers, didn't hurt them. And ultimately now she, again, vindicated by becoming, certainly helping Joe Biden become president. And her reward for that is to become one of his senior tax policy advisors. She is now somebody who has the ear of the president. And just 4 years ago, she was on the outside. And she decided that even though she was on the outside and had no power, what she would do was use her voice. So when I think about what I want to do about changing the future and what you all can do to change the future, I think that is that these two women are incredible role models for what it means to change the future. So when over the last, say, 12 months in particular, I do think what's been happening on the multilateral stage has entered a new phase. I would say that it really began just on the eve of the pandemic. So on the eve of the pandemic, we really had the digital tax debate taking on a new tenor. Before COVID stole all the headlines, you could look on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and see stories about the digital tax war, as they called it at the time, that the U.S. was insisting that countries not impose digital services taxes, and in order to persuade them not to impose digital service taxes, importing not just France, but countries in Africa that were threatening to do this as well, the U.S. wanted to persuade the OECD or work with the OECD to embrace a different alternative to these digital services taxes, which it viewed as a problem for its champions, the big digital companies, Amazon, Google, and so on. And of course, we had the pandemic interfered. It distracted everybody from this process. And over time, during the course of the pandemic, the effort to create this new OECD-driven pillar-based digital tax regime or response to these digital taxes gained steam again. And the question then becomes, what do you do about it? And for me personally, I think about these women who had nothing but their ideas and were willing to stake out their claim. They were willing to tell the world what they thought needed to know. And they were passionate, they were clear, they were articulate, and they made their point. So as part of the president's effort to embrace this new approach to tax, the minimum global taxes that now the G7 and the G20 have endorsed, and many members of the OECD's inclusive framework have endorsed. One of the arguments that President Biden and his team made was the argument that we needed a digital minimum tax in order to combat the harmful role of tax havens. So many of you may know my view about tax havens is that they are really not what people think. I happen to have grown up in a tax haven. I grew up in the Bahamas. So when I hear descriptions of tax havens as sort of the cause of all the world's tax problems, I chuckle to myself, because I know growing up that the Bahamas really could not keep the electricity on. And the idea that a country where most of the population, or at least the wealthy population, needed to have generators to survive without electricity from the government the idea that the government was defeating countries like the United States and the EU in hand-to-hand global tax combat was really quite preposterous. So, I find myself in the position that I think in years past, both Rebecca Kaiser and Kim Kwazing found themselves in. They found themselves confronted by an idea that was not only wrong, but dangerous. Something that the world should understand is not true. And I wasn't quite sure what to do about it. I had been writing about this issue for years in a relatively subtle way. I'd argued for in the years when the OECD had written and had argued that countries like Liberia should be sanctioned for being tax havens. Again, that was probably equally troubling, or more troubling than labeling countries like my home a threat to world peace. What I had to decide was whether the kind of work that I had been doing for years, which was pointing out that we could embrace more systematic approaches to address the problem of offshore evasion. There was the famous case of the Cayman Bank that involved American bankers were in charge of it. American clients were the ones using the bank, and they were making American investments, but somehow this was viewed as a Cayman problem and was held up an example of how dangerous these tax havens can be. I had for years pointed out that it was silly to pick on countries like the Caymans when the Americans were the bankers, the clients, and the investments in these arrangements. So I been talking about this for years, and it had relatively little impact. And when all of this really came to a head, I realized that I had to be a little more direct. And so I did that. I first wrote a piece with a wonderful scholar from Kenya, Tia Warris, called 10 Truths About Tax Havens, the Liberia Problem and Inclusion. And what we argued in that piece was that, again, more directly than I had in the past, that what you needed to do was to create a more inclusive global tax system that would listen to voices that were not European or North American, because it was clear to both of us that the way the global tax system had taken shape and was being shaped for the future was really not taking into account the concerns of the global South. It just was not, and really was not something that policymakers were interested in. And the evidence we used for that was the effort that the OECD had made in 2000 to blacklist and sanction a series of countries that were primarily majority black. And it was quite clear at the time that what was happening at the OECD was misguided, if not actually dangerous, and was designed to appeal to the worst in people rather than to find solutions to problems. OECD spokesmen at the time were quoted in the New York Times as calling countries like Liberia and my home, the Bahamas, gangsters, and saying they should be treated as such. All of which has is coded racism and is not the kind of thing that we expect to have coming from our policymakers, our tax policymakers. So when Professor Warris and I wrote the article, I think I shouldn't speak for her. I was really quite nervous. I had not spoken about these issues in such a direct and, quite frankly, confrontational way. In the past, I'd always tried to be quite circumspect and suggest, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't use all of these provocative terms and angry words to try to solve our problems, but instead to have productive conversations where we really understand one another's perspectives. And what I realized was that there was a time for nice words and reconciliation, and there is now a time for real strong words. And those were the words we used. I've heard Alex Cobham from the Tax Justice Network describe the piece as searing. And I guess it was, because I think that there is a time for anger. And I think that to allow yourself to be passionate as you think is appropriate for these issues is not a mistake. It's not always a mistake. So over the past few months, what I've been really delighted by is the response we've gotten to that paper. We've heard from a lot of folks who I think had really bought into the notion of tax havens as some sort of external menace, the street gangs of global tax. And after reading our piece, and in some cases talking to us, they are able to see that the story is much more complicated. And when the Biden administration and the OECD talks about imposing minimum taxes, there's I believe that the people proposing these things truly believe that they are helpful. I don't want to argue that anybody's acting in bad faith any more than the folks who argued for sunsets back earlier on were doing so in bad faith. I think that that senior professor who really became an advocate of sunsets as a way to impose discipline on policymakers, I think he truly believed he was right. And it was only after he read and debated publicly with Professor Kaiser that he realized that she was right, that those were policies that did not ultimately make sense and would not be helpful in the way that people thought they would be. So, when we wrote that piece, I was hopeful that we would have some impact on the way policy worked. And what I was surprised by, just around the same time, just as we were preparing to post that piece on SSRN, where you can download it and check it out, 10 Truths About Tax Havens, what happened was I was just minding my own business. I don't know what I was doing, but a good friend of mine, Professor Christians, retweeted something or shared something with me on Twitter that showed that the Biden administration had made its announcement for the Made in America tax plan, which included the updated minimum tax, our updated GILTI, and several other provisions that were targeted at tax havens. And even though the experts in his administration had been clear that on the corporate tax side, rather than on the individual side, they viewed the tax havens that were the problem, not primarily as the islands with the white sand beaches that had been part of the tax haven cliche for so long. They viewed countries like Switzerland and Ireland as really part of the problem. Yet somehow, in the Biden administration's announcement of their minimum tax effort, they cited only the Caymans and Bermuda. And I understand how this could have happened innocently. It's certainly true that of the big 7 havens that Kim Clausing identifies in her work, that these are the first 2 alphabetically. So Bermuda and the Caymans come before Ireland and Switzerland. So I can see if you were just naming 2, if 2 were the right number to name, you might innocently name these 2. But what unfortunately was true about this as well is that it echoed, if not fit within, a long tradition in the United States of what's called strategic racism. I just angered my smart speaker. The strategic racism that Heather McGhee talks about in her book, The Sum of Us. In the introduction to her book, she explains that what made her write the book, what made her angry and what made her speak out was encountering as she was wandering around the halls of Congress. I just overheard a conversation between lawmakers where they explained that the reason they wanted to reform the bankruptcy laws in a certain way that McGhee argues hurt working class Americans was because they thought that the bankruptcy laws were being abused by blacks who were being lazy and dishonest, and that that horrible racism was directly influencing the debate that she had come to work on. She, at that point, was working in policy and was advocating for bankruptcy law reforms to help working class Americans. And what she had realized until that moment was that what she was fighting was not policy ignorance or a failure to be sympathetic to working class Americans, but it was simple racism. And that racism was not only hurting Black Americans, it was hurting all working class Americans, because the bankruptcy laws that Congress adopted made it harder for people who are really suffering to get their relief. So what happened to me was, again, that I took that moment to speak out. I stayed up late one night, angry, writing a piece in The Nation that ended up really getting the attention of the folks that I knew in Biden's apparatus. I don't know whether Biden actually read it or not, but in the State of the Union address a few weeks later, Biden actually named Switzerland first. So he, and again, I don't know how carefully he was following the details of the issue, but I think this it's important to acknowledge that you can have an impact even if you are not the president, even if you are not working for the president, even if you're at a humble school like Brooklyn Law School. If you have ideas that you think are important, it is your obligation, as many others before me have, to share them and to fight for them. I see that I've got my host back. Oh, I'm sorry. I think your mic is still muted.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Professor Stephen. That was very, very insightful, and it was well detailed. I love the closing remark. It's very saying the president. Should you feel passionate about something, regardless of wherever you are, you should be able to go for it, and pursue it. You don't have to work for the president or for the governor, Once you have an idea, go ahead, by all means necessary, go ahead, pursue it, and, stick by it. Thank you so very much for joining us for this Tax Conference 2021. We are very much indebted and glad for you to have joined us. We know how busy your schedule must have been. So thank you so much for sharing your words of knowledge with us. We do appreciate, and thank you so very much again. God bless you. Thank you so much.
I just really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm so delighted by the work you're doing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Thank you. So I think that would be the end of this session. So real quick, we'll be joined by other speakers going into the next session. And so let's see if if you have comments and questions. So hopefully Timileyin will take it up from there. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Bamidele. Thank you very much, Professor Stephen. That was, as Bamidele rightly stated, very detailed and much direct, looking exactly at the role of the academia, multilateral institutions, and tax administrators in the future of tax. Immediately, we proceed to the second panel session for today. This panel session shall be moderated by a very special person, and the panel session shall be addressing the topic role of blockchain and technology in tax administration. The panel session shall be coordinated and moderated by a technology public relation consultant running an agency, Abiola Bonola Communications in Lagos, Nigeria. Our work involves helping tech brands tell better human stories that reach and engage their target audience using PR strategies, proving to increase sales. She has over 7 years of experience in media, marketing, communications, core PR, and technology. She has successfully managed projects and worked with the world's biggest brands like Viacom Africa, NCD Sugar Nigeria, Niger 2018 and 2019, Reckitt Digital and Jig 2019-2020, Nigerian Breweries, SCN Nigeria, Enough is Enough Nigeria, Impact Art 2021, creative agencies like Live Sports and X3M Ideas, and tech brands like Betway 2019 to 2020, B-Bank 2021, CribMB scheduled Binomu, and iCharge. Abiola recently received a partial scholarship for MBA program at the University of Suffolk, United Kingdom. She's a graduate of mass communication from Bowen University, Iwo, and she has studied at renowned professional institutions like Orange Academy and PR Academy. She enjoys talking about tech PR, startups, marketing communications, and digital public relations on TikTok and LinkedIn. Kindly join me to bring on Abiola Bonola as she takes us on this session.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Abiola. Hello. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. In Nigeria, it's afternoon in Nigeria. So let's start with the first. I would just like to introduce everybody so that you can, get acquainted with each other. So let's see. I'm not sure if I can pronounce your name well. I hope I get it right. Seniga. Seniga. Okay, right.
Senior, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I love your name, but I don't know how to say it properly.
Thank you.
Okay, so Seniga. Let me just talk about what Seniga does. So Seniga has worked for the past 25 years for the Ministry of Finance, Tax and Administration of the Republic of Croatia. She is a highly respected and recognized international tax expert who was heavily involved in lawmaking and was responsible for several tax reforms in Croatia. As a project leader, she established compliance risk analysis system and provided idea solution for automatic VAT refund based on risk analysis system in Croatian tax administration. She's currently involved as a head for tax risk analysis in a future development of CRM system, connection of tax legislation, and CRM system through risk analysis, especially in an analysis of solutions for applying new technologies. Thank you. Welcome, Seniga.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Hello, Alfredo. I'll just introduce you. Hi. So I'll introduce you to everyone so you can so they can get acquainted with you as well.
Hello, how are you? It's a great pleasure being here. I'm a tax professional, consultant in tax administration, and I'm working in Argentina and also for CIAT, the Inter-American Center for Tax Administration. It's a great pleasure being here. I hope all stay safe.
Okay, we definitely will. So let's go to Miss Naomi Thompson, who is a Senior Vice President. Hello, Naomi. I don't know if she's on yet, but Miss Naomi Thompson is a Senior Vice. Hi. Yes. Hi, Naomi. So Miss Naomi Thompson is a Senior Vice President, Legal Solutions, Exigent Group Limited. Naomi Thompson is a non-practicing lawyer, utilizing both her business and legal experience after working as an in-house legal counsel. She transitioned into a business role where she gained cross-functional experience in emerging markets, strategy implementation, and business operations. She has served as the chief of staff for the group CEO of an investment company with subsidiaries in Africa and the United Kingdom. She led multiple large strategic projects and supported the COO by executing the strategic objectives. In her role as Vice President, Legal Solutions, she has focused on legal innovation, transforming the way legal services are delivered by combining technology, artificial intelligence, and data analytics to deliver answers that impact every aspect of business performance. In short, she assists her clients to implement innovative approaches by incorporating technology into their legal delivery. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Mr. Michael Olufemi Olarinde. Hello, Mr. Michael. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Mr. Michael is a multidisciplinary professional. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So, Mr. Michael is a multidisciplinary professional. Okay. Hi, Mr. Michael.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, so Mr. Michael is a multidisciplinary professional. He holds a bachelor degree in banking and finance. He also holds a master's degree in financial management, a certified professional accountant, chartered tax associate, and chartered human resources professional. He is a senior manager at the Federal Inland Revenue Service and presently the tax policy support to the executive chairman of the FIRS. He specializes in tax policy, legislation, and research, and has sat on several national committees for the development of tax policies and tax legislation in Nigeria. Prominent among such committees are National Tax Policy Review Committee, National Tax Policy Implementation Committee, Nigerian Non-Interest Finance Working Group, and the National Tobacco Taxation Working Group. Wow, that's a lot. So thank you. It's a pleasure to have you, Mr. Olarinde.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we still have two other guests that we're going to talk about. That is Dr. Adeniyi Onamusi. Did I get that right? I'm not sure if I got that right.
Yes, that's right.
Hello. Okay. Hello, Mr. Dr. Onamusi. So, Dr. Onamusi is the CEO, Charter Consulting Limited. He is a certified chartered accountant with 13 years experience in strategy and financial management, a management executive with experience in tax revenue generation, corporate strategy, business finance, human capital management, and marketing. A dynamic and passionate leader, mentor, and professional with focus on revenue optimization, people development, and corporate expansion. Dr. Niyi is a medical doctor
with a MSc Major Programs Management from the University of Oxford, UK, that's United Kingdom. He has an MSc International Management from the University of Liverpool and a Master MA Marketing Management, University of Dublin. I'm sorry, these are a lot of universities, so it kind of it's kind of getting into me. He is affiliated in different capacities with various professional institutions such as the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Nigeria, Society for Human Resource Management, Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, National Institute of Marketing, Project Management Institute. So Dr. Nee has a lot of experience from accountancy to tax to the medical line. He is, wow, I'm impressed, sir. So it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So last but definitely not the least is Dr. Takang Armstrong. So, Dr. Takang Armstrong is a special advisor to the Honorable Minister at Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Nigeria. He is an innovative and visionary technology executive, author, and entrepreneur. He specializes in the provision of consulting, advisory, implementation, and project management services in the area of information and communications technology. Mr. Armstrong, or Dr. Armstrong rather, is an award-winning business savvy and focused executive with experience working with board members, management, and operational teams across multiple industry segments such as tax, financial services, insurance, high-tech, healthcare, education, transportation, agriculture, federal, state, and local governments, automobile, and foundations. It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Armstrong. I'm not sure if Dr. Armstrong is available now, but it's a pleasure to have everyone here. And I think it's about time we just, get started with different questions and we get to talk about technology and taxation. Personally, for me, technology is literally the future. That is why I work with a lot of startups and tech brands. So what I do literally is to try to ensure that they achieve business growth using public relations. That is what I do. So it's a pleasure to be able to talk about technology and tax, which is very important for these brands and it's very important for the taxation industry, basically. So it's not enough to say, tax is just something that you just pay to the government. No, it's deeper than that. There's a lot you need to learn about taxation, especially in Nigeria, and how it operates all over the world, and what technology can do in the near future, how we're going to make things better for ourselves, basically. So who should we start with? Let's start with Dr. Adeni Onamusi. Hello, sir. Hello.
Oh.
Okay, so my first question for you, sir, is how can tax authorities help to improve tax compliance generally? What's your perspective?
Well, I think compliance or tax compliance or regulatory compliance as a whole is something that will always be a hot button topic,
Okay.
and especially for a country like Nigeria, we need to be able to look at the society per se before we start to talk about the issues we want to talk about. Femi, being in FIRS, would want compliance, as much of it as possible. But I'm going to look at it from an activist position and then from a practitioner's point of view, if you may. So I'll be quick about it. Now, from an activist position, why do people pay taxes? People pay taxes because they want to benefit from services that they cannot provide for themselves, and that they think that the government should provide for them on a public access basis, on a communal basis. So that's why people pay taxes. So for things like security, road infrastructure, power infrastructure, and all of that. So people pay taxes for that, for those reasons. But what you find in a country like Nigeria is that there is no well-defined, well-articulated public benefits program, or strategy. Yes, we do projects, yes, we do interventions, and we do all of this, but the public does not have a sense of the benefits that accrue to them from the activities and functioning of government. So I think if we want to talk about compliance in Nigeria, the first place to start from is the government understanding that the reason people pay taxes, the reason people will want to be part of the tax base of any country, of any community, of any society, is because they believe there are benefits derivable from so doing that they cannot generate on their own. And that has to be woven into the very fabric and essence of government, of lawmaking, of our regulations. So, but unfortunately, for some reason, we've not been able to capture the imagination of the people for them to see that, taxes are beneficial. Taxes are not, they are not punitive. They are actually something you are doing and that you would ultimately derive the benefit from. So that narration, I think, is key, especially for a place like Nigeria. Now, that's on the more strategic, global level. But now to the very specifics. Again, Nigeria has a dual system of taxation, where you have the federal taking taxes from corporate entities, and also VAT. Then you have the state governments where people pay their income taxes. And when we talk about compliance, it's both. It's for both the corporate and the individual. So on the individual level, one thing we found out working across multiple states in Nigeria is the issue of we don't even know who the people are. So most cases, there's an identity program now going on, and state governments like Lagos, Kaduna, and some others have been able to profile employers so that they know who their employees are, and then they can begin to tax at source. But for a program like this, where we are talking about technology, I think there is a huge part that technology has to play in helping to put in place an identity system for citizens, so that we know who is who, and not just identifying them to a level of granularity where you don't just know what they are or who they are, what they are, where they work. You have a sense of their income, you have a sense of the economic activities they are involved in. And because if you have a sense of the economic activities they are involved in, then you can derive or generate or at least forecast a sense of taxes that should be derivable from such activities. The federal has been doing a good job to identify companies, especially syncing databases, the CAC database, which is the company registering database. The FIRS has been able to sync with that, so at least we know all of the different companies in operation. But I think technology still has a role to play in that as well. So I'll stop there for now, and then we can come back to it because there are other people on the panel.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think Mr. Olufemi Olarinde, I believe this question is for you because you are the government. You have an idea of what the role of the government is in improving tax compliance, basically. So, what do you think this, what do you think the government needs to do, especially with regards to prosecution of tax offenses? Like, do you think that a tech startup that is just, trying to build itself, do you think that the government should basically just, what do you think the government should do in terms of different companies, trying to survive in the tax environment in Nigeria? What do you think the role should be?
Okay, yeah, good morning, or good afternoon rather. Sorry, I will first, your question now, you said, what do I think the role of government should be in prosecution of tax offenders? Okay, that question now, your last part of it, you now start appealing for tech entrepreneurs or something. If you are stuck by the role of government in ensuring prosecution, I would have just told you that the only thing government can do to encourage others is to ensure they prosecute recalcitrant tax offenders, because that's the only way you can send message to others. There is this compliance model that says that's called the 595, which means that 5% of 5% of the population will automatically not comply no matter what you do. Then 90% of the population will wait for you and see what you do to that 95% that did not comply. Why the other 5% will naturally comply without anybody prompting them. So they'll say, oh, I don't want problem of government, they go to comply. However, the huge part of the population are those 90%, which will wait. The 5% is negligent. Normally, you would have said, okay, this 5%, let's forget about them. But whatever you do to those 5% will determine what the 95%. And the 95%, yes, because if the 90% does not comply and you do nothing, with time, the 5% that will naturally comply, we also look away. We start looking away. So I think the role of government to ensure prosecution is what? To ensure that the 5%, those that are recalcitrant. So when I say recalcitrant, those are people where you have continuously tried to speak to, you have tried to dialogue with, you have tried to do all sorts of things you need to do to bring them into the tax net or to ensure they pay, but they continually disregard. So you ensure that they are met with the arm of the law. That's what I would simply say as a tax compliance officer.
Okay, thank you. I like the way you said as a tax compliance officer. It's very, very.
For me, that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do to send messages.
I agree, and I believe everybody should pay their tax because we can't move forward without it. So I just have one more question to ask you. Okay. Don't run away. Don't run away yet. Are there tools? Are there tools that can be used to improve tax computations for companies? Do you think that companies need there are things that they can do to make sure that they are tax compliant? What do you think, sir?
Okay, when you say tools,
yes.
Now tools are in the realm of the practitioners. Yes, practitioners are there to develop tools and other things. This is where they make their market to ensure tax computation is done. However, in the aspect of tax administrators, yes, many tax administrators have ensured that what they need to do actually to make tax compliance as easy as possible for taxpayers. So, and if you go to many of the tax administrators' websites, FRS, I will start with, has what we call a tax calculator. So now, depending on what kind of tax you want to pay, it helps you to compute your tax. And aside from that, I'll go to the introduction of technology. Right now, that's what we're discussing. And I'm sure many of us are aware that FRS, in recent time, even before this year, have been introducing different kinds of technology for tax administration. And in recent time, one has been very prominent, both for pros and cons. And I'll speak about the pros right now because it also one of the tools, one of the things the Tax Pro Max, let me has is that it helps you in computing your tax, because you put in all the parameters. It has a provision for you to put in all the parameters as per your accounts, and it goes ahead to help you accurately calculate your taxes. Also, it does what we call the tax accounting, which means if you have tax credit that is already imputed in the system, it will recognize that. So this is to aid and makes things simple for tax payers and for purpose of tax compliance. So I believe I've answered your question in regards to that. But when it comes to private tools, I'm sure the tax practitioners have several tools that taxpayers can actually log into. But I will not be advertising for practitioners at this time.
No, yes, sir. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Alfredo, I believe you have a contribution for us.
Yes, about that topic, I think that technology must simplify taxes. It's very important to make more information available for the taxpayers. I think there are a lot of tools with the technologies. For example, pre-file tax returns. There are lots of countries that are doing pre-file tax returns in VAT and also in income. There are new ways to information and assistance to the taxpayer, because we need to simplify the tax system to raise the voluntary compliance. It's very important, for example, prepare declarations to the taxpayer that it will have a lot of benefits. For example, reduce tax compliance costs, for example, reduce the errors in the presentation of the tax declarations, and also increase the post-verification programs. There are lots of countries that I think that facilitating compliance is essential to achieving the tax administration strategy, and technology we will help to the countries. The countries will put the citizen in the center of the transformation and should simplify the tax system with new technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data, data analytics. It's very important to simplify, to raise the voluntary compliance. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much for that contribution, Mr. Alfredo. I'm not sure if Dr. Armstrong is available. Dr. Armstrong, are you there?
No, it's not on the call.
Okay. So while we wait for Dr. Armstrong, I'll just let Ms. Saniga. Did I get it? Okay. Yes. Hello. Yes. Okay, great. So I just want to ask you, what are the 5 steps that can ease tax filing and compliance? What's your opinion, especially when regards to businesses? What do you think can help businesses, file their tax and comply better, in these times? Is there technology that they can use? What's your opinion?
So I think that some of these answers gave my colleague, Mr. Alfredo. So of course, compliance is the strategic goal of the tax administrations in general. So we have 2 parallel goals. One goal is, of course, timely collecting the taxes, but another parallel goal is to be good services, to provide good services to the taxpayers and the citizens. So what's that mean? That means that we have to bring something to our taxpayers, to move the taxpayers much more in the field of compliance. It could be a different measures. We can have legal measures, for example, horizontal monitoring. We use that in Croatia. So this is some kind of agreement between tax administration and large taxpayers. So this is mutual trust between us. So if the taxpayers play and by the rule of the agreement, the tax audit will be not triggered. So there is the binding rulings also in some future investments, and also APA agreements. So many measures, legal measures, are really available. But other things is to give to taxpayers possibility to fulfill their tax obligations in much simpler way. So that is the e-services or pre-filing the tax returns, and in the field of personal income tax or VAT, actually, why not? If the taxpayers has opportunity to fulfill tax obligations much more simpler, he will be much more in the sphere of compliance. Also, that brings us in the field of simplification of the tax legislation. So we have majority of the taxpayers who are really compliant and minority who is in the criminal field. But we have the group of the taxpayers between them who are not in criminal sphere, they are not fraudsters, but for example, the tax legislation is so complicated that they will say, no, we will not do that because we don't know how. So we have to help those taxpayers to fulfill the obligations, to have the informations on time. I remember, I don't know, decades ago, the tax administration was much more closed, but today we have to be open and also open-minded. So all stakeholders are very important. So if we are talking about the legislation, for example, all the stakeholders, it's much better that they are involved in the legislation. And a good example is European Commission, which has public consultation about legislation, because you can have a beautiful legislation, but it's not applicable, and it's too complex for the practice. So we need applications, we need to use technology to give our taxpayers to fulfill the obligations much easier. And that is also the dual communications with the taxpayers, for example, the sharing the rulings or some notice in the inbox. So this is quite new environment for taxpayers, but also for tax administration also.
Okay, thank you so much. I have another question for you. So, what do you think, will tax tech threaten the compliance rules in years to come, in the near future? You know, when I mean tax tech, I mean technology advancing tax. So, in the near future, do you think that it can threaten compliance rules in years to come? What do you think?
No, I don't think so. Okay. So my opinion is that because we are living in a digital era, our environment, business environment, is already changed. Is already changed paradigm between legislation and technology. So it's already shifted. So for legislation, you will have sometimes direct impact of the legislation, how some provisions would look like. So I don't think that tax tech will be so big impact of compliance, but we have to be ready for that, and we are ready also, because this pandemic show us how important it is to think about some things on time. If we don't have this level of digitalization, automatization, for example, in Croatian tax administration, we have automatic VAT refund. So if you are a compliant taxpayer, you will get your amount of the VAT on your account without any manual work. So it was really important, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when we were in the lockdown. So it's ensure some kind of liquidity for the taxpayers. So I don't think that tax tech it could be even better. So the benefits of the technology, we have to use that. If we are talking about the blockchain, machine learning, or DLT technology, so for example, Croatia is the member state of the European Union, so we are in European partnership for the blockchain. So blockchain is not solution for everything, but could be a solution for many things in the field of taxation. Also, sometimes people think blockchain is just for the cryptocurrencies, but that's not true. So I think that technology give us and digitalization give us a special level of transparency, trust and transparency between tax administration and taxpayers is the crucial. And if we would like to increase the compliance, there will not be a heavier tax burden. That will be increasing the trust between us and the taxpayers. So that's digitalization and technology bring to us to be much more open, much more transparent. You can see your obligation. You can see many things that before were close to you. So this interaction is something that will bring to us much more revenue than any repressive instrument as I don't know, everyday tax audit or everyday enforcement. They are necessary, but only for the high risk taxpayers. So of course, the audit and enforcement, we have to build the tools for them, but I think that's my opinion, my experience, that's the most of the important thing for the compliance and for the revenue will be trust and transparency between the taxpayers and the tax authorities.
Okay. Thank you so much, Saniga. Naomi Thompson, hello. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi there. So I just have one question for you. What can we do about tech literacy? Because, there are times that, a lot of people don't know what is important. We don't know what to do when it comes to tech literacy. I mean, in regards to taxation, even in the law field, the legal field. I don't know. How do we help?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that question. Yes, it's a huge problem that we have, tech literacy, not just in Africa, but globally, there is still quite a lag around how do we train our children starting in primary and secondary school. If I think about our curriculums, you would normally have a situation where the kids are marched off to a computer lab and then you do it very independently. But for us to be able to train up more tech literate students of the future or employees of the future, we need to see how do we incorporate technology as part of our everyday maths. Are we able to do maths incorporating a computer? Because it's math, science, and technology really does go together. And what about coding? Should coding be compulsory in how we deliver the training to our students? But I have to be cognizant about the challenges that we have, especially in Africa, around internet connectivity. I think in 2020 there was only a 47.1% internet access rate. So and looking at how COVID has impacted, I'm from South Africa, and the minute our country went into lockdown, there was more than 50% of students that could not attend online classes, that could not do their homework because, number one, they did not have access to computers, or they did not have access to internet connectivity. So this, for me, is really a ecosystem that needs to work together. It is the school curriculum, it is private organizations that needs to come together and say, this is how we will partner with you, and this is how we will help to be able to advance tech literacy on our continent.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I agree with you, completely. It's very important that we start from the roots, from the beginning, where children can get to learn from when they are young and their brains can accept such information. So, there are so many children these days that we don't even need to teach them; they just figure it out. So,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So
And just to add,
I agree.
just to add to that, Madam Speaker, there in 2030 there will be 230 million jobs that requires digital skills. So how are we going to prepare the students of the future to be able to take up that jobs? We need to have done it already, but it really is critical for us to incorporate those digital tech skills.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Alfredo. I think we'll be closing with just a little bit of information from you. We just want to know: are developing countries prepared for blockchain in tax? What do you think, especially when you infuse technology and blockchain into tax administration? Are developing countries ready for it?
Yes, I think all countries should analyze the benefits and costs to incorporate ICT for when you have a problem, you have to know the best practice, what are doing the countries in the topics. Is essential to analyze the context. For example, now in the pandemic of coronavirus, we need to expand the tax databases, and we don't need to control always the same group of taxpayers. I think countries should incorporate ICT and new technologies only to solve problems, not ICT as a fashion or as a fashion because that country have blockchain, my country will have to go to it. I think it's important to analyze the best practice and to analyze which problem or which work can be automated with the ICT technology. It's very important to put the citizens in the center of the transformation, because the different work in paper and the governments don't translate the bureaucracy of the paper to the bureaucracy of the digital world. And it's important, for example, in teleworking, we do the work in a different manner than in an office. And that is the digital transformation. We should analyze the benefits, the costs. I think one of the important of this pandemic is the digitalization, and the digitalization change the habits of consume, change the manner that we work, and change the manner that we learn. For example, in this conference, we are learning for a college expert for all the world, and I think is the best notice the digitalization, and all the countries must explore, because the digitalization is a new opportunity for the countries, and the countries who explore and use digitalization have a new opportunity, because I fully agree with my colleague Senia that digitalization brings transparency, and transparency is essential to fight against corruption. Corruption is one of the most important problems, and I hope that new technologies will help citizens to solve this big problem. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alfredo. Okay, since we don't have any other, does anyone like to contribute anything more to this conversation before we end? Okay. So thank you so much for having.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, Mr.
Okay, I just want to the last question you asked Mr. Alfredo about if developing countries were ready. The first thing I would say is that we know technology is a disruption of the order of the day, which many people were not ready for, especially with the advent of COVID-19. There was a lot of disruption in the system, even before then. And I would say even the developed economies are actually not ready yet. However, it's worse in Africa, because if you listen to the discussions around the challenges of digitalized economy, you will know that even the developed countries are not fully ready, though they have some things on ground. But if you look at Africa, it's worse because you need a digitalized administration process to be able to capture digitalized economy. So we are now in Africa struggling to first digitalize our processes, our administration processes, before we can actually have visibility to those digitalized transactions. So that is to answer your question. Yes, tax developing countries are not fully ready. However, things are already in place. And I'm sure we all know what is at the national level, what Nigeria FRS is doing. However, at the states, you can know because Dr. Adeni already spoke about the levels of taxation we have. The states, I'll tell you that probably only 30% may have something on ground. So the others are still lagging behind. So thank you.
Okay. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll see more implementation of technology for tax, especially, we want to see a future where everything is transparent, where everything is more reliable, and we want an environment where everybody trusts the system, and we can all move forward together. So thank you very much, everyone, for this beautiful and interesting conversation. I've learned a lot. Seniga, thank you so much. Mr. Alfredo, Dr. Adeniyi, Mr. Olufemi Olarinde, and Naomi Thompson, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we couldn't have Dr. Armstrong, but it's okay. We've learned so much despite all of that. But it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, we get to talk more in future and have more better conversations, basically, about taxation and the future that we hope to build. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Great pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Really appreciate that very insightful session, which actually addressed the role of blockchain and technology in tax administration. Many thanks, Abiola Bonola, for helping to moderate our session in a very, very wonderful manner and driving the conversation and even leaving it open to further conversations to continue even after this event. Key speakers from that particular session includes the fact that blockchain is beyond cryptocurrency and can be introduced and used in other areas of life, including taxation. Also the fact that over 230 million jobs are estimated to be available that would require digital skills in the nearest future. And lastly, that tech brings transparency, which is used and can be a good tool to fight corruption. Amongst many other lessons that were picked out from that particular session, we really appreciate our panelists for delivering such a wonderful and insightful discussion. I'm sure our audience are right there and they are still enjoying the sessions as we go on. Immediately at this point, we'll be moving to the next on our agenda, which would be the keynote address. Just before then, I would like to state that as a result of the platform that is being used, we would have to experience a little break, which will require everyone to actually go back on. So what are we simply saying? For those of you watching us via YouTube, kindly look through the link the comment box section of the current live page, and you'll find the new link that you can use to join us back. I would repeat that. As a result of the platform we are making use of, you'll be required to log in back again. So kindly look through the comments box of the current live session. The link for the new platform, the new login link would be provided in the comment section. Kindly do good to join us. We definitely will be expecting you because we have more interesting aspects of today's event to go on, which includes the third panel session that will come up right after we return from that break. But first, before the break, we will take the keynote address. The keynote address is going to be taken by a distinguished personality, but to bring on this person and to moderate this session would be Morenike Omotayo, a legal practitioner and senior associate at Professor A.B. Asamu-Shiva's Legal Practitioners with a keen interest in alternative dispute resolution, particularly mediation. Morenike is a certified OEP practitioner, a certified member with the Lagos Multi-Door Courtroom, LMDC, a mediation advocate, an associate member and a certified arbitral secretary of the Chartered Institute of Arbitration, Nigeria branch, and a member of the panel of neutrals of the LCA CIRB. She is also Chartered Secretary and Administrator with the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, and also a member of the International Bar Association. To lead us through this session, I welcome Morenike Omotayo Uju.
Thank you very much, Timileyin. I've been saddled with the responsibility of reading the profile of our keynote speaker, our second keynote speaker to be precise. So Judith Friedman is Vincent Mason's Professor of Taxation Law and Policy at the University of Oxford. From 2001 to 2019, she was the inaugural statutory professor of taxation law at Oxford University Law Faculty and one of the founders of the Oxford University Center for Business Taxation. She has written extensively on various topics, including small business taxation, tax avoidance, and tax policy making. She was a member of the Aronson General Anti-Avoidance Rule Study Group and has served in many other policy committees. In 2020, she was appointed to the board of the UK Office of Tax Simplification. She is a member of the Council of the UK Institute for Fiscal Studies, IFS, and chair of the IFS Tax Law Review Committee. Judith is general editor of British Tax Review, as well as being on the editorial boards of several other journals. Professor Friedman has been appointed as a CBE for her services to tax research and as an honorary fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation. She was elected a fellow of the British Academy in 2016. With highest regard, I welcome Professor Judith Friedman as she presents a keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Morenike, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today. I've been listening to the session that went before me, and it's all very interesting and great to bring people together from around the world to talk to you. I have no idea who's out there or how many of you there are or whether anybody's listening at all, but I shall keep talking. I'm also not sure how long I'm meant to be going on for, but I shall just keep talking and somebody will stop me if they want me to stop, I'm sure. So I'll probably go on for about 20 minutes. Oh, I'm being told 20 minutes, that's fine. And I would also welcome any questions in the comments box. I would love to have some questions at the end if there is time. because I'm not an expert on Nigeria, of course, and I'm not really an expert on blockchain. I'm certainly not an expert on blockchain or any of those things. So why am I here? Why are you listening to me? We're supposed to be talking about the future of tax practice. Perhaps I represent the past of tax practice. What can I tell you? You are all bright young people. You are the future. I am not the future. I'm enormously excited about the future because there are so many amazing, bright young people out there. And I have the privilege to teach people on the tax MSc in Oxford. And I know how many really bright people there are. Far more capable than we were in the past, thinking much more and more reflective about many issues like the climate change and so on than we ever did in the past. So I'm aware that there are limits to how much I have to teach you, but I'm going to tell you some stories from the past, which I think might reflect on how you should think about things in the future. When I arrived in Oxford 20 years ago, I was appointed as a professor, and I arrived thinking, well, there are so many bright young women here already. There's nothing I can teach them. I don't have to do anything for women in Oxford. They're doing it already. And it was remarkable to notice that they wanted me to do something. The women wanted me to say something on their behalf. And the reason they wanted me to do that was because they still felt that things were not right, that they were a group that were not being treated equally with the men. And so we set up Oxford Women in Law, and we started to work on that. So, as I say, although I feel that you are all doing really well and better than I am, in some ways, I do know that women still feel the need for women's groups, support, and so on. But I'm not only going to speak about women today, I'm going to speak about a number of things we can learn from the past and look to the future for. I think the first thing to say is that you cannot comprehend what things are going to be like in the future, just as we could not comprehend what things were going to be like in the future when I was in practice in the late 70s and the 80s. When I started out, we had no word processors. We didn't have computers on our desks. We didn't even have word processors. Everything I did went to a typing pool overnight to be typed, ready for the next day. There were no other women in my department for most of the time that I was there at a big city firm in London. There were obviously no maternity leave provisions because women didn't go off and have children. There weren't any women, and if they did have children, they didn't come back. And as for tax, well, there was a lot of artificial avoidance going on. There were a lot of schemes. It was before the Ramsey case was decided, if you can think back that long, and that's hard. Tax was very different too. What has changed? Well, we do have computers and we do have statutory maternity leave provisions. I don't know what they are in Nigeria, but we certainly do in the UK. We have a lot more anti-avoidance provisions. We have general anti-avoidance rules. We have lots of specific anti-avoidance provisions. And we are much more aware of the reputational risk of being involved in tax avoidance. But what has really changed is the culture and the views and the beliefs. And that's what I think is hopeful and what is encouraging and what we have to encourage further and work on further. So, first of all, the new technology. Yes, new technology will help us in many ways. It will remove a lot of boring and reiterative work. It allows us to focus on what's really important. But as with my typing pool, it removes time to think as well, because when I sent a takeover agreement to the typing pool to be typed overnight, that gave me thinking space. And if I had changed my mind in the middle of the night and then the next morning thought this shouldn't go off, we could revise it. We could look at it again. Now I press a button and off it goes. And I think that has removed thinking space. And one thing we need to be careful with new technology is that we do not remove the human element. We do not remove thinking space. We've got examples. There was an example in the Netherlands recently, for example, when everything was automated and notices were going off to benefits recipients that they were going to be prosecuted, and there had been no human intervention, and this caused enormous trouble and almost brought the Dutch government down. So we do have to be very careful with technology, that we continue to have a human element in that technology, and we use it to make thinking time, not to remove thinking time. I said that I wasn't going to talk about blockchain. I am not a blockchain expert, but yeah, great. If blockchain makes transactions more secure, more transparent, less open to fraud, that must be a good thing. But don't expect it to solve fundamental tax problems. As the PwC report on blockchain says, rubbish in, rubbish out. If you haven't got a good tax system, you are simply not going to be able to use blockchain to help you. So it will help if you have a good system, it will not help you otherwise. And that's true, I think, of all technology. So that's my first lesson. Technology can be helpful, but it can also remove time to think and remove the human element. And it's important that we don't let it do that. So the next thing I want to talk about is women. Women in tax. Yes, you probably have rules to protect you, laws to protect you that were not available when I was in practice. But as I said, it's people and it's the changing culture that matters. And one thing that I would say is that rejoice in the fact that there are more women, more and more women in tax firms, and that you can work together to change things. Because when I was in my tax firm, there were no other women. And that was hard. And if you're a senior woman, help junior women. There's a massive temptation for people like me and senior women to say, I got there the hard way. Nobody helped me. So why should I make it any easier for these young people? They have it easier than I had it already. But I know that young women do not feel that way. They do not feel life is easy. So much is expected. You are expected to do your work. You're expected to be a wonderful mother. You're expected to be a wonderful cook. Something has to give. Don't try to do everything. And also look to each other for support, and support each other. But men must also help women. Women can't do this alone, and they must help women not only in the workplace, but at home. So it is really important to make sure that the people you're working with help you and support you, and also the people at home, informally and formally. Until men take paternity leave as often as women take maternity leave, I don't think we're going to be precisely equal. The other thing I would say is remember that equality must spread across all staff. We often hear about more senior staff, we hear about the lawyers and the accountants who are women and how hard it is for them. But think about how hard it is for many support staff who don't even earn as much as the accountants and the lawyers, and who are being expected to support others. And make sure that any equality procedures trickle down and extend to the entire firm, because then those support staff will also support the policies and will support the women and the men who they are there to work with. And I think everything I'm saying about women applies to all groups, all minority groups. Women are not a minority group, but you know what I mean. All groups who are in any way othered, we must all support each other. Diversity means the avoidance of groupthink. Diversity has to be a good thing. And so my big message is think for yourself, work with each other, but don't create some kind of groupthink. Fight against the groupthink. And I'm going to end by talking about tax and the importance of giving yourself time to think about tax. Our modern tax systems are more and more complex, and we often, although we're trying so hard to make them fairer, simply make them more complex. And it's hard to see whether we're making them fairer or not. Sometimes we seem to make them less fair. Sometimes we seem to try to remove avoidance opportunities, and we create other avoidance opportunities. What can we do about that as individuals? I don't think we should just sit back and accept the tax system that we have. Get involved. Join groups, join committees that comment on tax law. Make sure that your country has input into the international debates. Make sure that your firm has input into the national debates. Make sure that you individually have input into the debates that are going on about tax around you. Make sure you understand the system and not just a few details that you're having to apply. Join International Fiscal Association. Join WIN, the Women's Group of International Fiscal Association. Join groups like this. You're already all there because you have joined this group and you're listening. Yes, the removal of tedious work may save us time, but use that time to have time to think about injustices and abuse and compliance and the importance of compliance. And when you're advising your clients, think about their long-term interests, think about them in the round. They will thank you if you think about their interests, not just in terms of tax minimization tomorrow, but in terms of their relationship with the tax authority, how they will be perceived externally, their reputations. Make sure that you can talk to them about those things and not just the technical details. Although, of course, you do also need to know the technical details, but they will thank you for having a broader view of your tax system. And for that purpose, I would strongly advise you to have as much tax education as you possibly can. I would say this because I am an educator, but there are wonderful tax master's degrees across the world. Some of them are available remotely. Some of them you have to attend. Obviously, I'm going to give a push here for the Oxford Tax MSc, which I teach on, which I helped to set up, and which one of your speakers in the panel that follows this, Lucky Star, is going to did attend and will no doubt comment on. But whatever opportunities offer themselves to you, then take them to study tax further, to understand tax better. That will not only help you, but it will also help your firms, and it will help your countries, and it will help your clients. And unless we all try hard to improve our tax systems, which in most countries in the world are really not very good, we are not going to make any progress. That is why I have joined the board of the Office of Tax Simplification, which is a very strange title, but it's working to try to improve tax. It's why I'm on the Tax Law Review Committee of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. It is very hard to make a difference, even when you're on these august sounding bodies. They don't give you that many opportunities to really make a difference. It's hard, but I think we all have to just keep chipping away and trying to improve things. So to sum up, I talked about four things really, or three things. I talked about new technology and the way that we make it our servant and don't become the servants of that new technology. I talked about women and other groups. It is not just women, but other groups who need support, who can support each other, who can get support from others within their firms. All of this will strengthen the firms and will strengthen the groups as well, and how we have to help each other in this endeavor. And I talked about tax and how tax is changing. Reputational risk is really much more important. Seeing tax in the round is much more important. We've heard already in this conference about the importance of voluntary compliance. No tax system can work without voluntary compliance. Tax administrations need to foster that. Taxpayers need to understand it and work together. And the way to promote that is to have more and more tax discussions and more debates, and to feed into those debates as much as we all possibly can. So I would really welcome some questions if there's any time, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Professor Judith, for the well-delivered speech. You know, it's really encouraging to know that you've been in this practice for so long a time, particularly in those times when women were not so into this field, the tax field. It's quite an encouragement to know that we can also do it, and that, you know, I really, the part that stood out for me is the fact that, you know, we should support ourselves as women, and considering the fact that more women are coming into it now, the support is very needed. Thank you so much for your time. It's so wonderful having you in this conference. Thank you so much. We look forward to learning so much from you. You know, another part that even struck me was you were part of those that actually participated in setting up the master's program in Oxford University. That's a big feat, and I'm really, really grateful that a woman is actually taking the lead, you know, in that field. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going back now to Timileyin, who will be ushering us into the last session for this conference. So I would want us to just, you know, follow the instruction that was given, that we should check the link in the comment section and move to the next. Okay. All right.
Thank you very much, Moreni. Really appreciate the moderation of that particular session. And Professor Fred was definitely just a bomb day. She just dropped so much nuggets in a very, very short time, which is really interesting. Amongst many of what she said includes the fact that technology would not fix a poor tax system. She also went forward to state the fact that we have to give more thinking time and not move more thinking time because of the use of technology. A striking point is also the fact that women should look out for each other even within the space of taxation. And she also called on the men to also do same by supporting and helping women to have a very good footing within the aspect of taxation. Last but not the least, as a nugget from what she just delivered, is the fact that we all must be involved in the discourse and have a good tax education. It is in line with this that I'll be calling on everyone to quickly jump on the new link that will be provided, as this particular platform will be going down now. You are called upon to kindly go through the link, through the comment section, and find the new link for the new platform that will be used to proceed with this program. Just as Professor Judith said, we must be involved in the discourse, and we must also have a good tax education. Therefore, let's jump on the link and proceed with the third session. See you right there immediately. Thank you.